All right, well, good evening, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. This is just going to be kind of a Q&A. What's up with Destiny? I've got my brother in here, so he's hanging out. We've got Stonewolf. Some of you guys may have heard me stream with him before. And honestly, just kind of talking about the state of Destiny, a couple of the games that we've got to talk about, and then just general questions towards me. So if you guys are here in Twitch Live, feel free to throw anything into Twitch. And I think Fred started with probably one of the best ones. And we're going to get going with that one to be sure. What is your honest opinion of the state of Destiny 2? Stone, do you have any opinions on this one? Or would you like me to start?
Can we do it by Sandbox PvE versus PvP versus Gambit?
Yeah, we can break things down. I'm going to turn down the game volume a little bit so you're not quite as drowned out. There we go. Oh my god.
All right.
There's a public event going on right now. You kidding me?
That's awesome.
That's just not quite right. There.
Yeah, but it's my favorite speaking character in the background.
That's fair. Fail safe. You know, don't get enough of that.
No, I like failsafe.
So, okay, let's start with, we got multiple segments. We got PvE, it's all your raiding and strikes and Gambit and story. You got PvP, Crucible and Iron Banner and all that, and the lack of trials that some people are not a fan of. And then you got Gambit smack in the middle, and then just the general feel of the armor, the weapons, and stuff like that. Pick your topic, sir. We got 4 on the board.
So I would say for Gambit what is the season of Gambit right now?
Season Drifter. Yeah.
I like the cutscene, the first one. I was kind of disappointed with the second piece of news. The third one with, if everybody's watched it.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Well, I was just going to say, at least it's interesting. If there's not another cutscene, I'll be disappointed. I don't know how much it takes them to do a cutscene because they already have a lot of this built-in game.
No.
So I'm liking those pieces. The cadence weekly is not bad. There's more detail to it than the Black Armory, which was stuck behind books, and they delivered it. The cadence they delivered the books was wrong, so people missed out on a lot of the good lore between what happened with Ada.
Well, yeah.
Until everybody already bypassed the content.
Yeah, well, then you sent me through the puzzle, and we finally did that. You're like, oh, there's a little more. And that's one thing, unless you play through all the puzzles and stuff, you're not even going to know what's there. So that's one of those weirdly hidden pieces of lore that's kind of a big deal for Black Armory and 801, and you don't get it unless you actually dig deep, and there's a lot of people, I bet, that miss that.
And then on the other side of Gambit, you get to pick. Are you going to play the content that was developed for Gambit, or are you going to go the Allure side and get called a snitch every single round of Gambit?
Which one of your characters is the snitch?
The Warlock.
Oh, man. I literally have only done the Drifter side yet. I haven't even done the Vanguard. And the Vanguard probably is going to be my Warlock, just because that's my second most played character. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that either.
Oh, I'm never... my Ranger or Hunter will be Drifter. Arthur picked... I told him to put on my Titan on the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like that anymore. He won't play Gambit on that character now.
But I mean, it's interesting. It is nice they actually made it to where a decision kind of matters. It lasts for a while. There's actually an effect to something in the game. It's like the first time they've really actually done that. You won't have access to full lore. You'll have different voice dialogue throughout most of your plays. Like, that's a step in a good direction, I would say.
Prescott said he missed this lore. Which lore did you miss? The Ada, Prescott?
Probably, yeah.
Did you finish all of Black Armory and then do the puzzles?
Yeah, because if you miss the puzzles, you'll see that 801 has a very different, kind of cool color scheme to her. And once you have that one unlocked, you learn a little bit more about her, which is interesting. But I don't want to spoil it in case you haven't seen it yet.
But there was so much potential depth to that character. I hope she sticks around because of what she is once you learn the lore. I like that. There's components to the character that could keep taking forward because she's been around way longer than anybody realizes.
Well, and also, it's just the fact that you had this person who got introduced who was pissed off at all the Guardians, and we're like, why? And it's just that little... And the way the introduction was done could have been... They would have needed one cutscene to explain something, and we never got that. So it's just this giant question mark for a whole season.
Fair. So they didn't do Black Armory right. They're doing Gambit Season of Drifter better, but it looks like they had this built this way first, and then they did Black Armory. There's more functional polish on the lore tabs, the contents of the scripts, the execution of things. And I don't like how they bound Reckoning and Gambit Prime together, but they've been spending a lot of time on this section of the annual pass.
Yeah, Season of the Drifter. Yeah. Well, the last one is being developed by a different studio. I think it's Vicarious Visions, if I remember correctly. It's the last thing they're doing before the Activision Bungie official split is complete. So they weren't really making the final piece of content, so I guess they had time to put effort into this one. So, yeah, it does feel like they've had a decent amount of time to put into this one. They did learn some things. I mean, the onboarding for Black Armory was awful. I mean, that's a term that I've heard thrown around a lot, but it's your first step into new content, and you're like, how do I do it? Well, you go play the old content so you can get higher up, and that just sucked. So, I mean, they did fix that to a point. You could still go into Gambit Prime on your first day. You could technically go into Reckoning Level 1 on your first day, even though it wasn't that big of a deal. So, I mean, the way you could start each piece of content was drastically different. And that was a painful lesson they learned, because everybody was pissed at Black Armory for not being able to start the content.
If they had other stuff to do before you got to the Forge, like story content,
yeah,
that would have been a nice gateway. They wouldn't have had the drama, there wouldn't have been the issues, but that goes back to a fundamental core component of Destiny that I've always been frustrated with. It's the light level of the gear and how it's delivered, so that's a separate problem.
Yeah, that'll be more the Sandbox story. So since we're kind of in PvE at this moment, we're on a slightly different topic, but
between Black Armory, some people have wanted Black Armory. There was a raid with Black Armory, and I liked it the least. I did the raid. I got the shotgun first run. Obviously, everybody hated my guts when I got it, but
yeah, I still don't have it.
The raid mechanics, the group working together.
But how many raids in Destiny have you done?
All of the ones in 2.
You did
None
last
of the ones.
You did Last Wish partially. Mm-hmm. You didn't finish it, did you?
I finished it now.
Okay, but you haven't done anything in Leviathan. Well, we got through part of it.
We did it all.
Okay, we didn't do the 2 side ones because I haven't honestly hardly done those either. I haven't done the. There's 2 separate little mini raids. So.
No, I haven't done the mini.
Yeah.
Something stars.
Yeah, Spire of Stars and can't remember the one against Argos. I'm blanking right now. So you've done a few. So you like that. So what made you like it the least versus some of the other ones you've experienced?
No, I've liked none of the Destiny raids.
Okay. So
in Destiny 2, I have enjoyed 0 of them. Why?
Yeah.
Well,
curious.
Let's see. My MMO background with large raids and groups and complexity levels is vast. Because armor really doesn't matter, that's a fundamental flaw in the design of it. Everybody's role's generic. It's who can stand, who can jump, and who can shoot the target. That's who can and hide. So it's hiding, shooting, aim, your relative light level to a curve, because your armor is functionally meaningless, so you get the same hits as everybody else does, assuming you're at the right light level. And it's always been that way. So what they added was the fifth thing was the functional mechanic complexity. Every single one of these is hyper mechanic, and it's maddening.
Well, I mean, you've got a different aspect. It's like you come from, I played World of Warcraft like you did, and you have completely different roles. You have tanks, which we wish would be a Titan. You have a caster, which would be a warlock, which even though they're not. And then you have a healer, which a hunter obviously is not. So, I mean, there's different aspects there. So maybe the hunter's the DPS, the warlock's the healer. But you have very specific roles. You're taunting a giant boss. You're having a group of people off to one side in a little bubble, like, do a bunch of damage. And you have healers focusing on the main people taking damage. And you barely get a glimpse of that in occasional little supers that we get, whether it's a healing grenade, Well of Radiance. You get some tiny buffs to that nature, but you don't get the aspect of like, hey, I have a Titan and I have twice the health that you do, but you're a caster and you do twice the damage that I do. We don't have anything like that in the game. And there are honestly rumors that there is potentially, and these are just all total rumors, so speculation is completely at like 100 right now. Potentially in Destiny 3, there's rumors that there could be a light and a dark side. Maybe. There could be more RPG elements in there. And if it goes to something like that, it'd be something that I've been asking for a really long time. As you said, like, have armor matter, have stats matter. Right now, our stats are useless. Mobility is how fast you strafe and a little bit about how much you jump. It says movement speed, and that's even a lie, because you don't actually run faster. You run the exact same. You have resilience, resilience, which is the amount of damage you can take, and that is in a relative spectrum of like 192 health to like 203 or 4. It's a really tiny margin. So that's your only difference there. And then recovery is just how quickly you get your health back, which is kind of a weird stat. But you don't have anything else. That's it. So, I mean, those are relatively useless. Even less so than Destiny 1 stats. Destiny, you had a stat for super regeneration time, grenade regeneration time, and melee regeneration time. And you could actually work on stacking to those. Now, they have some of that in the mods, so they gave a little more to it. But I think the mods have even more weight than the stats do at this point.
Yeah, I never got the mod economy.
No, it's weird.
Because you can't get them back. So experimenting with them, unless you have multiples, is risk averse.
Well, and that's also one of those things where you don't know what everything does. You're like, oh, let me put a mod in. It doesn't say, like, grants increased resilience. It doesn't say grants +1 health or +2 health. It doesn't say anything like that. Increases super regeneration by what? 10%? 20%? By 10 seconds? By whatever. None of that stuff's ever in there. They're afraid across everything even to put numbers in there. They won't even tell me how much experience I have on this bar up here.
Well, they're not the only game that hides their stats.
Well, I know, but I'm just like, that's a frustration of like a lot of people to be, you know, if people go data mine and they're like, hey, how much impact? Okay, I have to go to a website that data mines the API so I can see how much actual range that is as opposed to, I think it's almost max. I mean, that doesn't feel great if I'm comparing, and you definitely sure as hell can't compare weapons. I can be like, hey, compare, like, you know, hold down shift and compare to my primary in stats. It's like, you don't even get that option.
Right.
So there's a lot of things in the game that are lacking, but it is also based on, it's a shooter. It is a very different feel of a game. It's first person. And the fact that they did first person rating, first person, like, group co-op activities, which is something impressive to a point because you have abilities, you have these cooldown timers and all these things that are in here. And you've got a whole lot of questions going on as to what is actually going on with your character, but it feels really cool, and that's what they're going for. The gunplay in the game feels amazing. It always has, always will. Like,
I'm good on the gunplay. The random deaths, the sniper rifles, the linear feud, the mob, line wire ones, those frustrate me.
Line rifle, yeah.
Because they're always shooting you from a distance you can't see on your radar.
I mean, it's true. That's kind of one of those of... That's one thing of knowing the encounter, and two, being able to do something about it. Hold down Q to compare stats. Huh! Well, there you go. Shows you how much I'm paying attention. So, I just got proved wrong by my chat, but Havoc, of course, is the proper one to do that. Okay, so pulse rifle to... Fine, let's put sniper rifle and sniper rifle. There you go. Okay, so I can technically compare stats. I can see rounds per minute. It's a faster gun. I have a slightly bigger green bar on stability, a little bit bigger bar on handling, and lower impact and range. So there's a comparison there. More than I thought. What do I know? But still, I wish there was actual numbers. I do wish there was actual numbers. Like if it said -10, -8, +1, +3. Something like that would still be nice to know.
On the numbers part, the Masterwork cores, back when they were Masterwork cores,
yeah,
it'd be nice to know, okay, if it's 10 levels to upgrade, is it 10 points total? Is it 15 points total?
You're like, oh, okay. It's like bump the range up. There's that little green nugget over there on the end of my range bar. I'll get a little bit more. So, comparing, learning something new apparently while I do this, so I feel smart. And there are things outside of the game that will give you numbers. Dim will give you numbers. Light.gg will give you numbers. There's databases out there that do. And I guess Bungie's okay with that being a thing, but it'd be nice if it was in-game. I don't know if their UI in the game just can't quite handle it, if it's asking too much, but I just kind of wish it was in the game to a point. But even, like, numbers on guns and stuff totally aside, in the PvP world, right now, one thing that I hear a lot of people talking about is doing the same content over and over since Forsaken, and even since mostly Destiny 2 launched. Because you've got the light level going from 400 to 600 to 650 to 700 to 750. And how do you increase your level, and what's the purpose of that? Well, in this season, it's been less important because the only major thing is the Reckoning, and then your PvP, like, strength in Gambit Prime, per se. But outside of that, your level hasn't been as important as opposed to, like, Season of the Forge, when actually the Forge was worth it. But, I mean, do you enjoy at this point doing the Nightfall, the Strikes, the Flashpoint, the Heroic Adventures, the story missions, all your powerful gear bounties, over and over and over? Like, how do you, I mean, okay, and I know a lot of people don't enjoy that, so what do you feel would be a good change to take the current leveling system into something that's more enjoyable?
If you know you have to redo the content, no matter what, I would have to say, going as far back as Diablo 2, just having a little change every time makes it where it's not so monotonous. In regards to, so with Black Armory, if the Forges had different mobs, a chance of different mobs, let's say predominantly Cabal, and then sometimes there'll be a civil war in the middle of it, Cabal versus Vex, just as an example.
Yeah.
And it happened once every 5 times. You'd play it and like, oh cool, this is different. Yeah, you know you have to do several of them, but it doesn't impact a whole lot to throw in existing content and other things. I liked, actually, in Destiny 1, you could replay the story missions if you liked them. And there were some that were really fun to do.
Yeah.
I have to wait for the daily heroic option list to go either play the tank run or the Sparrow one. The ones where you can use the vehicles, those are entertaining.
Yep.
But you don't get any higher power level doing it. It's just fun to do.
Yeah.
All of the stuff that gets you the best power level, which would be the dreaded dreaming city of I can't see diddly squat, and the weeklies, which is fine, but then, like you said, you're grinding the same content every week. So when did Drifter come out? 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Yeah, we're on week 4, if I remember right.
All right. So it's taken me 4 weeks to get from 650 to almost 700.
Yep.
I've lost count how many things I've done. I have done over 60 strikes, normal strikes, to get that fusion rifle, and I can get the hand cannon now.
Yeah, I was like, go get the service revolver, because apparently that's in yours. Apparently that's a good one, by the way.
I'm going to wait till I'm 700.
That's fair.
So I can get it at 700. And then, but it's another hand cannon. I want a really nice, all the bows that came out earlier that were default Forsaken have been non-balanced with the new weapons that have come out. Non-rebalanced, except for that one void bow that I really like.
Limonarch or Subtle Calamity.
Both of those.
Yeah. I mean, those are pretty good. The first bow I never touch. I think it's no point. Whatever, it's the first one you get. You're like, a bow, and I never use it again. So for me, the piece about the content, doing it over and over, does tend to get old. I mean, I know Sed is wondering, it's like, what do you guys think about, doing the same content over, getting the same exotics from Destiny 1 back in Destiny 2? I mean, you may not have played Destiny 1 very much. Do you care that these are reused exotics, or would you prefer they were new?
I've played, but I remember I used the keyboard mouse thing with D1.
That's true.
I never got all the exotics because I didn't play enough. I played where I could because I traveled a lot, and I missed so many different times Zur would drop stuff because of my travel.
Yeah.
So I never really got to experience all the content, so seeing them now for me isn't bad because I didn't burn through them the first time.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. So we've had... Here, let's see what Prescott's got going on. I feel there is now a point where there's too much content for the cycles they use for an average player. Especially... Oh, what's up, Havoc? You gonna come sit in the tree with us? It's especially when they have events piled on top of each other. Yeah, that's one of those things. Sometimes it'll be like, hey, this is Iron Banner week. So you got 7 bounties that take some time to grind. It'll be I think this all combined once together. It was Shattered Throne Week, which is a grind in itself, depending on what you're going for. And then on top of that, it was like the third week of the Hallowed Forest, the Halloween event. All that stuff like smashed together at the same time.
I wish the Halloween event would have been longer.
I wish most of the events would be a little bit longer. Some of the, like Crimson Days was a week. And while it's not...
That's a lot of time in development to burn through that content like that and throw it away.
It feels like it. I mean, the Hallowed Forest was cool. You got the horror story that you could grind for. You had the waves that you could go for. And they did put something in there in the horror story to grind. It would have been nice if there was a little bit more. Maybe an armor set. When we get back to armor not mattering, that it's cosmetic, but it's still one of those pieces that's...
Oh. He's got Thorn with the skin.
Oh, I haven't bought the skin yet, so... I did finish my Thorn. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there in the game that we've all seen a lot. I haven't checked my played time in a while, but I know I've run all the Nightfalls, like I can almost tell you what the
How do you
spawns
do
are.
that?
Do what?
Check your played time.
So look up wastedondestiny.com and it will tell you. So they will check it. And usually it's pretty accurate. Like, I think some sites will actually check played time versus just sitting in orbit too, which I don't even know how they do that, but they do. I feel like we have a guest. Oh, there we go. We got a buddy in the tree looking at us with the fancy new Thorn. So we have Thorn. It comes back. It's only okay. And we get to this point, I guess we can probably transition into Sandbox a little bit because we're about to dig into weapons and things. Thorn comes back. It was at a point of being really annoying. Then it got kind of nerfed. And then they brought it back in this kind of medium state. But they take exotics from Destiny 1. Thunderlord's probably the strongest one that's come back for sure. There's a rumor we might see Hawkmoon, which I actually did enjoy. We've got Last Word, which I still suck with. So that's a thing. We've got Thunderlord. We've got Jade Rabbit. I mean, like, the list can go on for a little while. Telesto. And we have some new ones, but it's... I don't know their plan for D3, but I don't want to see any of this stuff again. That's just me. Some people are like, hey, I want to carry my stuff from D2 into D3. So that's a fair question to start. What if there's a D3, do you want it to start from scratch, like start over?
If they mechanically keep it as good as it is now, I'm okay with new, unique ways of interpreting content. If they can't, if they lose all of the fundamental mechanics that have fixed things,
yeah,
that's where I get frustrated. So it wouldn't matter if, well, heck, can I drop a different game in here?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is Ebontis Q&A, not Destiny Q&A.
Well, Witcher 3. There's a lot of stuff to go get. There's a lot of armor set pieces to go get. And when you roll New Game Plus, you get the option. Do you want to start over with nothing, higher difficulty level, and build it up again from scratch, or carry your gear forward? And CD Projekt Red found that most people want to experience it starting over with nothing at the higher difficulty level. They liked getting all the new stuff. They liked the chance of getting new stuff. But it was a clean slate. It makes it... There's an opportunity for it to be different. Yeah, you had some probably god rolls you'd earned, but then you wouldn't try something new if you didn't do it that way.
No, I mean, that's one of those where some of their theory, I think, with weapons and stuff right now is the fact that as the Infusion core, they want Infusion to matter. They want each decision to be important, but then if I have my Hammerhead, and that's the one void, one of the rare... It's honestly the only legendary machine gun I can get. Say I didn't play and get the Avalanche from the event. It's the only legendary machine gun I've got. Well, of course I'm going to want to get that one. But if I don't have the cores to infuse it, it keeps getting lower and lower and lower in light level. So then I'm like, oh, what grenade launcher or 14,000th edge transit that I've got. And I'll just use that until I finally get up to max level and be like, okay, now I'll infuse it because I've finally got a few cores. And they want you to... It's okay sometimes to experiment with different things. But it would be nice if the other things were viable sometimes. I mean, scout rifles are completely useless. to me most of the time. I don't see anybody hardly using them. Pulse rifles have taken basically their spot in nearly every activity that I can think of. Hand cannons are kind of your mid-range. You've got shotguns, mostly full auto, which they finally kind of changed up, but it's still going to be the winner. And then things like Wardcliff Coil, Thunderlord, Whisper of the Worm, and you have a whole bunch of stuff that's kind of trash. And I know in most games you're going to get there, but, I mean, take Anthem, for example. Another game, I know I'm freaking out. Part of the thing when you're leveling up, like when you got to level 30, if you get say you get a legendary piece of gear, if 30 in Anthem is 700 in Destiny, once you hit 700 in Destiny, for example, your Anthem gun would drop at 700. It's not going to drop at 680 anymore. You're maxed. You're going to keep getting that stuff at the max, so at least you can experiment it without any detriment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a different games as a service model, but they're both fundamentally trying to keep you doing stuff. One just doing it differently and more poorly than the other.
Which one more poorly?
Well, Anthem overall, but in that context, they're not. No, Anthem wants you to try new builds. They want you to take the time to switch things out, which is why you're getting things at your level.
Yeah.
Destiny wants to penalize you for trying to participate in the meta. If otherwise, you would be using the gear that's dropping. So because you know you want to use Jotun or Telesto and your machine gun and your pulse rifle, and those are the only things that you really want to use, they're artificially penalizing those that are casual, and those that aren't always have enough gear to matter. So when I help my kids out, and they're struggling with an SMG in their primary, and what did they have? The highest thing they had was the arc bow and the
Edge Transit?
What was the, and a rocket launcher.
Okay. A normal
so that
one,
was
though, not a good one.
No, not a good one. It was just a purple rocket launcher that had high impact and tracking. But that was the highest level stuff they had, and they had 2 enhancement cores. So they couldn't take the gear, like my oldest is trying, into the Reckoning, because that's the light level stuff gear they have. Well, they perform so poorly doing that, it's kind of comical to watch. But it's also they can't
Sorry, guys.
Experiment. What?
Oh, them. It's like you're laughing at them. Like, sorry, it's a struggle bus right now.
But they can't experience the same content with the gear they're comfortable with. Right. They're forced to use other things, yes, good and bad. But if you look at the spectrum of player base, they're on the probably bottom 15%. And some of us that are talking and watching the stream are on the other side of that spectrum.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got... I went on my rant twice. I did it on stream once. I did it on Last Word. Infusion cores... Or Infusion...
Third time's a charm?
Yeah. Not going to matter right now. They are hell-bent on it, and they're taking... They want Infusion to matter. But that's not the purpose of this. There's always going to be a meta in this. We're going to find it. I'm not finding a new upgraded, thermite grenade. I'm not getting anything different per se from... I'm getting slightly faster, bigger magazines or faster reload speed or weapon dexterity for handling speed. It's like there are minimal changes. It's not like I'm getting, your machine gun now, when it shoots, explodes fireballs because I got some cool drop. It's all relatively the same. So when everything is so based on the weapons anyway, just let me bring them along. And then most of the drops you get are not good for infusion. So you're waiting, well, let me see if I get my powerful gear. That's a heavy drop that I can put into my Thunderlord that's going to take cores to infuse. Okay, now I'm still not going to touch my armor, which goes back to armor, which I have never masterworked a piece of armor except to figure out how many cores it cost. So that's one of those annoying pieces as well, because I have 5 pieces of gear. Well, I went through and I did the math and I was just pissed. It takes 96 core. If you want full legendary and you want full masterwork, which masterwork armor doesn't really do much anyway, but full masterwork entire set, it's 96 cores. 96 cores. Unless they just start... they did the clan bounty, so now every time you do a weekly... or the vendor challenge, you get 7, which is a start. But 7, that's not even one piece.
Right.
Your options to get cores right now are from Spider. So you have to go out, do activities, to get the things, to buy the bounties, to go do the bounty, to get 1 core. And there's only 6 that you get. So if you do your clan piece, You spend the time to do your 6 bounties, and that's not doing powerful gear stuff. That's dropping lower level items, which is not helping you level up and improve. You get 13 enhancement cores. And then right now they have the scrapper bounties, which are a, hit or miss chance that you'll see one. They last for 3 days and they'll give you 1 to 2. So in a week, for an average player, if you wanted to level up, you have so many different activities to do, but you would have to take your time away from leveling up just to, no, I'm going to fall out of the tree. Yeah, apparently we're doing this live, guys. I'm going to sit down here and be dainty for a little while. But you have an ability to get roughly 15 cores if that's what you go after. And it still takes your time to level up, and then you're not worrying about it. So if you want to bring anything along, it's at your detriment to do that. So you can either work on powerful gear, which is not going to get you enhancement cores. You can work on enhancement cores, which is not going to get you powerful gear. And you're kind of at a standstill on either one. So they want it to be meaningful, but they take the fun out of leveling up. Okay, apparently I'm at a rock concert now. Cool. Am I your guys' groupie? Is that what's happening right now?
I'm going to smash your head and hold on.
That's about to happen. Smashy. So we got Havoc over there with a good-looking Thorn. And that's one thing I hate to say, and I've hated to say it for multiple things, like Anthem and this as well. The potential in these games are amazing, because we can see in our minds, what could be there. It's like if Infusion cores weren't there, if Masterwork core, if I had to grind out to Masterwork a piece of armor, that makes sense. If I'm working on leveling up, I got one piece of armor, cool. I like this one. It's got, machine gun reserves, machine gun targeting, awesome. I'm going to go grind out my 9 cores however I can, work on my clan bounty, work on my cores. Cool, I got one piece of gear that's maxed out. Now we just got bro stuff going on. You guys are real focused at this point.
We are. We can multitask.
Yeah. But it's just... I'm not going to keep ranting about infusion cores, but they take a lot away from it. So, just keep the questions going in chat, guys, and we'll keep talking. So we've got story, which is better. It's working on improving. We had Destiny 2 with the Red War, Destiny 2 with the Red War was okay. Not amazing, but it was okay. Then we had Warmind and Osiris, which were just lackluster because they felt shortchanged. Warmind could have easily been more, but they didn't do enough with that. And you had Osiris, I was like, who's Osiris? And he walks back into the damn Infinite Forest. And we're like, dude, how is he not standing in the tower after Curse of Osiris? So,
I think they do that because the temporary time they have access to voice actors, and that's not for the right reasons, but I'm guessing it's more for that.
I mean, that makes some sense. But I mean, a vendor in a tower doesn't need a ton of lines. All of them repeat a ton as it is. So, I mean, you had those two. You had Warmind, which Osiris, we heard him talk one time and we're out. And I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. Never mind. See you later. Not Osiris. The hell's his name? What is the Warmind? I can't even remember.
Bray. Anna Bray?
Well, that's the lady. I'm talking about the actual Warmind who talks to you.
Rasputin?
Yes, Rasputin. Yeah, when he spoke, I was like, holy crap, that sounds awesome. And that's all we ever heard. Nothing. We heard about Rasputin for all of Destiny 1. Thank you. Yeah, Havas, helping me out there in chat. We had it in all of Destiny 1. Rasputin, hearing about these things and the satellites and all these the bunkers and stuff. And then we get 60 seconds with the dude and then we're out. Forsaken made a pretty cool turn. We actually have depth of the story. We have the Queen with the ongoing weeks in the story. She's actually left now. She's part of this emissary thing. And they could be building to something really cool. So, I mean, that I think has made probably their best progression for D1 and D2 altogether. The story from Forsaken on has been pretty compelling, at least in the grand scheme of Destiny stories. It's not like a BioWare Mass Effect story from what I hear. Not having played it, of course. But in the world of a looter shooter, Division 2 story is pretty much non-existent from what I hear. Fun gameplay, lots of stuff to do, but the story is meh. Anthem had something cool, but I forget whose video I watched. But it was talking about we walked in basically getting to the point of this cataclysm and all this crap going on and everything. It's if we could have played the 10 or I think it might have been Bife, the 10 or 15 hours before Anthem's craziness went down where we started the game, would have given more weight and gravity to the characters that we were playing with, the people we knew, as opposed to, hey, you're just in with this person. There's no introduction or hey, we're going to work on this stuff. We level up. The city's going here. Stuff goes haywire. And then you turn back around. And then you're in that middle. We started in like the middle of a story. We didn't get the beginning. So
the whole, let's not talk the Anthem development cycle. That'd be a long conversation.
And that's fine. But I'm just saying, like, in the scheme of like looter shooter, like live service games, Forsaken was pretty cool. Like, I enjoyed the story quite a bit, actually. And then we've still got Aldrin who's waking up, which we still haven't heard anything from. So Bungie, please tell us what the hell's happening there.
That's true.
I'd love to know. Like, we have a cutscene. He literally just like wakes up and we're like, cool. That was like 3 months ago. Now what? And then you have the queen who just leaves her infinite realm. And then we have the queen who's a cloud statue in talking to the emissary. And then something's going on if she's out there fighting Savathun or if she's going to bring back the Dorito ships. I don't know. Space Doritos. But all of those things are like, they've built a cool world. Unfortunately, right now, playing in the world is the same thing over and over and over. And it's getting to a point of being somewhat old. So it's in a weird spot. Like, for the annual pass, do you feel they succeeded or failed? I know it's not that black and white, but I'm
in
curious.
The first one, for as much as I played Armory, I probably got my money's worth.
Yeah.
For what I've been experiencing Gambit Prime, like we talked this morning, which we can get into in a little bit,
yeah.
I feel like I'm getting robbed. If Opulence is all about the rumor mills being about Leviathan and the raid and the content I struggle with severely, I wouldn't have paid for that.
So, big picture, if you knew everything in advance, potentially not?
I would have spent $10 on Black Armory if I could have bought it in pieces.
Okay.
Gambit Prime, now that I see how it works, I'm frustrated and disappointed with. And then if Opulence, I'm fearing, is going to be all in-game related stuff due to... But Fred said it in there. They've completely ignored PvP. So they will have touched, the PvE grinders, Gambit in this phase. And if they're really focusing on raid content for the next phase, PvP has been left in the dark, and they've already dropped out whatever it was that you guys played that I never could understand with cards.
Trials of the Nine. Trials of Osiris was Destiny 1, which everybody loved. Trials of the Nine with the 4s was kind of broken. So, Havoc just showing off all his emotes up there.
I mean, this is the first time I've used a lot of these emotes, to be honest.
Well, we talk. You guys do emotes. It's fun. I'll just sit here and run the show.
You're the host.
Yeah, but... So we have a piece of content for Black Armory that was, here's these forges. And for me, the forges themselves that be like, hey, there's a weapon. And I will say, they're very slow to, like, make quality of life changes because they want to drip feed things out so bad. Finally, on April 9th, you're going to have all 6 weapon frames to pick from every week. So there's not going to be a wait on a 3 or 4 week cycle because apparently their random numbers don't work that well. So they're going to have all 6 of those. Somehow, like, that wasn't a thing after, we unlocked Niobe Labs. Like, it was 3 or 4 weeks in. Okay, now they're all unlocked. Why, that would have been a nicer thing. Pick what you want to grind for because everybody seems to want something different. So it's a random thing. My biggest thing with the forges was they were all the same. It was always one thing in the middle. There were enemies in different places and different spawns, but it was all like one map and one bank in the middle. Now, Izanagi or Izanami? I forget the forge. Izanami, I think. At least has different levels, but the other 3 of them are literally arenas. One has like some caves, one is like an underground bunker, and then the other one is like a canyon area, but they're all fairly open bunkers with one thing in the middle. Couldn't you have had like 2 or 3 little mini banks, or you got to hit this bank first, and this bank second, this bank third, and you kind of like have a reason to kind of move stuff around, or 2 separate banks?
Where you're going is what's happened to the raid. I didn't mind that.
2 mini mechanics?
Well, no, but that's the disconnect. Black Armory was fine with me. All it did was make me try. I like Black Armory because I changed it when I went in. I didn't always use the same gear. I tried out different builds. I tried out different powers in an environment I knew that was relatively static. And I experimented more in Black Armory because I fundamentally knew what would happen, and that's probably the first time in Destiny I've ever done that. It was almost as though it was a controlled environment. I enjoyed, and that kind of hurt, actually.
It's a big thorn. That thorn, by the way, is bigger than the gun. Just, Havoc, if you shoot that thing sideways, that projectile is bigger than the entire gun, basically.
So,
mean,
but
anyway.
So it didn't bother me that they were the same mechanic, and it didn't bother me that the same mob for the most part, because I was changing every time I went in there. So
okay, so some would do that just because you're... I love how you've been holding draw for like 10 minutes now. But, okay, so that's somebody for you. What if they just want to literally, hey, I want to go grind it out for efficiency so I can farm the weapon as much as possible? It is the same thing no matter where you go, though. But it's always the same. There's no variance in mechanics in any of those places. 4 different forges, not even Barguzia Forge that was behind Niobe Labs had anything different. Do you think that at least should have had something else to it?
No, that wasn't the point of it. The point of the forge was to be able to make the weapons you wanted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I get that.
You're wanting to add mechanics to something that was literally meant to, once the big phase of stuff was done, to be able to go in and make the weapons you want for the people that wanted to grind out the weapons. Would you want to add extra mechanics to something? I know you're bored with it, but if somebody's grinding a weapon like I might have done in mass, you kind of, it's all right to keep it the same because, God, you just want to do the next phase so you can get the next roll.
Okay, well, two pieces of that. One, if I didn't have to go back to Ada 1 for every other part of the quest, then if I just had to work on it all in there and I could, that would be a way for me to actually work on different builds because I'd be working on an auto rifle, pulse rifle, sniper, bow, machine gun, and sword within the actual forge itself. As opposed to, let me go out into the world of the things I've done 16 umpteen times to shoot stuff with a pulse rifle and then go get kills and you find it efficiently. But then you have to leave and then go back. If I could just work on it inside of the forge, most people would have had more lore drops from the pages, and I could have actually seen more of the forge and would have been okay with a little longer mechanic because I'm in there working on it anyway. It doesn't have
that
to
would
be...
have been a different, and I'm okay, I agree with that. But whatever the thing with Destiny is, they like you to go back to the tower, and I've never figured out why.
I don't know either.
For everything, though. So,
I mean, it's
and
not
on
like...
PlayStation, it's annoying.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, load times on PC are decent. Like, I'm sure console is so much worse. But generally, it's like they put a new landing zone for Black Armory to get to Ada 1. So it's not like the idea is, hey, we're going to go back, you're going to land by Eververse and be like, oh, let me see what Eververse has today. That's not even part of that, like, routine. She's not even in the loop. So that's your only incentive, per se, to send you back to the tower frequently if they want to make money out of it or have it as a business proposition. But if it's not even in there, oh, you've gone colorful. Yeah, and now you have Ada and the Drifter down there. So all the pieces of content are at the Annex Landing Zone, which is separate from Eververse, which is their microtransaction zone. And they don't even put you near it, so why would you have to go back and over and over and over for no reason? So I've never understood that. You are ridiculous right now. Can you push him off a ledge, Havoc? That'd be great. He's just going to sit there. Shoulder charge him.
Hey, no.
You gotcha. So, like, I don't know. It's those little things that really annoy me about Black Armory.
But
like,
that's not Black Armory's fault. That's Destiny's 2's fault. You're blaming how the content was delivered and how many times we had to go back to Ada because that's how it actually works for other things.
Okay, if there were 3 forges that were okay. It's okay, take this. Any bounty that you're going to have to pick up generally is going to be like, go to this one, go to Volunder, go to Izanagi, or go Fanon. And then you can go to all 3 of those. But if you want to do Barguzia, maybe it gives you a higher chance. Maybe it gives you a little bit more. But maybe behind the one that was stuck behind the asinine puzzle that was Niobe Labs, there's something else to that one. That was just a huge letdown. It was like, there's nothing different to the final one behind the giant black door. That was just
That's why I feel they spent more time on probably Drifter and Opulence and less time on Black Armory.
I mean, it probably makes sense because it was short cycle, I guess, of development maybe to get
it was short cycle
Forsaken out, which was just massive and amazing, and then you had Black Armory not that far later and probably a short group, and behind the scenes, we knew they were working with Activision to get out of from Activision. They had investments come in to figure that piece out. They've been trying to figure out how to monetize their business. We don't know what comes after August. So all these questions are up in there. So they've been thinking about all that long in advance and still trying to figure all this stuff out. So there's a lot going on.
That's the other reason why I don't want Ada to disappear, was that content was rushed. Look at the deliveries via text and out of band and everything else. No videos. It was the very first piece, and they copy pasted.
Yeah.
And I get that, but yes, it could have had more, but no different than Opulence versus...
No. I was
What
returned
happened
to
to
orbit.
you?
I was returned to orbit. I didn't move enough. I'll join
Come
you
on,
guys.
do something. I'm now leader. Oh no, we're doomed now.
Oh yeah, we are. So anyway, back to like said Fred's point in his question. So the current state of Destiny 2 has a lot of things to do, but stuff we've already done. Their current focus of Gambit, their previous focus of the Forges, has been very fine focus, and then Gambit even more so with set bonus armor that is literally usable in one bubble on your director. I mean, after talking to you when we talked about Gambit, yeah, it's kind of broken if you have the Collector and Invader.
Oh, are we going to start talking about that? Because
I mean, the said Fred was asking about Gambit, so we're going to talk about it. So, yeah, I mean, Gambit right now, you are able to get synths. So, okay, let me break down the whole thing of why it annoyed the crap out of me. As everybody dug in a little bit deeper, we're like, hey, cool set bonuses. And I even remember listening to Destiny Community Podcast, and they're like, surely we're not going to get 3 different sets of armor while we, go through these tiers of the Reckoning. Sure, we'll get one piece, and then we'll be able to upgrade it. No. We have 3 different sets of armor, so literally the first 2 sets you'll never use. So it's like
Correct.
the most useless pieces of armor. Then the set bonuses are usable. There's nothing that helps you in the Reckoning, which is where you get it. There's only a benefit to Gambit Prime. So you have a PvE activity. So once say you have your Invader set, I'm back. Say you have your Invader set. What purpose do I have to go back into, what's up, Frankie? Reckoning. Like, there's no benefit in there. There's no, other PvE set I can grind in there that helps me out in Strikes or Nightfalls or the World. There's nothing that helps me in there besides Gambit Prime. And then Gambit Prime, now we're figuring out the set bonuses are cool, but I'll let Stone tell you how, from, say, a solo queue perspective, a couple people working together can ruin your game.
So having the one thing to work on right now for me was the 21%, right?
Yeah, the Delirium.
So starting this morning, or starting about the time you could start getting the +3 gear, and everybody's finally got it, that could steamroll that high-end content because the light level was high enough. This morning, I was paired off against 3 hunters and 1 warlock. 1 hunter and 2 of the hunters were invaders, and 1 of the hunters and the warlock were collectors. And as soon as they got 20 motes, 1 person, they dropped their collector lock us down.
The big one.
The big one.
The big giant blocker.
And he starts draining if we had anything.
Yep.
And then the next person dropped 15 within pretty quick succession. As soon as the invader comes in, we can't put any motes in either. And he just hides the entire duration. He doesn't try and kill us. He's hiding, so we're locked out from getting everything. Somebody puts in a captain, and then somebody drops in the big one. That's another, 30-ish to invade again? And he invades again. A different person invades. We were never able to deposit more than the original 11 or 12 we got in until they summoned their primeval. And then when they invaded, it was the invader invading, and obviously their perks are pretty grand because we're still trying to collect from pretty much no amount of nothing. We've been cleaned out. And that happened every time I got paired up against this group, because I started praying pretty early. And it's when you don't have +3 gear, you're a solo, and they're paired up like that, it's an awful experience to be feeling like you're completely helpless. You're sitting there, that big mob, and if the other players don't know what to do, like, hey, that big one in the middle's locked us out completely. Why don't you guys, everybody pointed this direction, but then you're not picking up motes. As soon as you go to pick up motes and they see that the mob disappeared That's the other thing. There's a lot of people that don't read the bar well.
Oh yeah.
So if as soon as they see it not drop, then they go invade. Well, then we're locked out again. And if we can't find the guy, you're just hopeless. It's this vicious cycle. And sitting there going, well, okay, do I just sit here in the corner and wait until they've done their primeval, which ended up being what happened on the third time I ran into the group, was you just sit there and invade. And then they one-phase it. And that's the other disturbing part. All of them were solar classes. 3 hunters and the warlock were all solar. So I don't know how they one-phased it.
Guns, Well of Radiance, and probably Wardcliff coils with lunafaction boots.
Yeah,
when you put
so
all that stuff together, it's just stupid.
So the matches were short. The matches were depressing. I lost all my progress on that +3 -2.
Yeah. Oh, which by the way only gave me a +1 when we did it, which was just awful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so you have a bounty like that, a +3, a -2, and you have. It's like they think, okay, this person with the 4 stack's going to do this 5 times, and we'll give them a +1 bonus. Good job. You have an average person who's going to potentially never do that. And then when they do that, the equivalent drop is the same as doing a heroic adventure by yourself. I mean, that or doing 1 daily strike or daily story mission. Those don't equate. Like, they don't have... There are so many times the weights in this game do not make sense for the number of kills you need to get for certain bounties. That's why I have I only do the Gambit Prime for the weekly. Yep, 4 times and he's out. And that's true. Like, that's part of what... And if you don't like Gambit, you don't get a lot out of the season because your purpose to grind the Reckoning is for Gambit. And if you don't like Gambit, there's no reason to go on the Reckoning. It's cool content, but...
I finally got to do that last boss today.
You saw it works?
Yeah, that's not fair.
Compared to the Knights, is it easier?
No, it's worse.
Oh, is it?
The Knights are easier.
Oh.
Yeah, he summons ogres, and depending on your role for the day...
I guess it depends on
the teleports around.
Yeah, people were just trying to mostly like knock him out with Wardcliff coil and just big stuff. So some were trying to melt him quick.
It's void burn right now.
Trying to think what would Nova bombs.
Yeah, that'd be great if you didn't have a whole bunch of hunters.
Well, that's
Tether doesn't do a whole lot of damage.
Okay, so that's another question as of just a random offshoot because that's what this whole entire discussion is going to be. Matchmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, seriously, this has been a huge, huge debate for a long, long time. Should there be matchmaking in raids or matchmaking raids or matchmaking in Nightfalls? Like, Nightfalls at this point, matchmaking would not bother me at all. They're easy. Like, it's fine. But I just think something like Gambit Prime or The Reckoning with matchmaking, when you see tier 3 and people are just failing or running ahead or not waiting or not communicating because most people don't have a mic. Oh, we've got a buddy with wings. What's up, bud? I have your sparrow. Would you like it? This guy's like, what is going on up here? We're all just sitting around chatting. But you have, I mean, you have things like people are like, is there raid matchmaking? Do you think that could even work? I mean, what do you think of matchmaking overall at the current time?
Well, Anthem was fine.
Okay.
The matchmaking it's 4 randoms.
But is anything overly mechanically difficult?
No, and that's the reason why it works.
Okay. So things like Nightfalls and Strikes and stuff like that. But you get into The Reckoning with different phases. You got to have, like, we need tethers, we need bubbles, we need all these things, and we need certain exotics in there. And just be like, hey, 4 random people walk in, like perhaps your kids, with, like, submachine guns, a rocket launcher, and a sidearm. That guy's gone.
Look, an arrow to the knee. That's perfect. Does it look like that on screen now?
Yeah, you pretty much shot straight through my kneecap. No, it's in there. Yeah, apparently we're also having the podcast of Squirrel, Shiny Object.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I don't even know where I was. But you have like 4 random people, like, you know, your kids want to be like, hey, I want to try it. And tier 1's not that bad. You just have to shoot a bunch of things. So that one might be okay. But as soon as you get into tier 2, just with the portions on the bridge, knowing where to go, knowing how to handle it, knowing that there's snipers around there, somebody needs different roles, and you're going to try and do all of that with randoms, it's just like, that sounds awful.
And that's where I don't like the... Different question. Do you want the game to be challenging and have a lesser quantity of people, or do you want it to be casual, friendly, and be less mechanic? And that's a preference. What what kind of game do you want to play?
I mean, coming from
A game can't be
background-
for everybody.
No, is that coming from our background? Of course, I'm one that would enjoy more challenging content and more variety of options of things to do. And that's where you get into, this is still a shooter, but they don't have like roles or anything like that, basically. And it is a little on the frustrating side, because stats haven't ever mattered, armor didn't matter for so long, and they finally put at least a little bit on it, but not much.
Now we're going to turn your knee into a pincushion.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Jeez, guys. Alright. I don't think that one was in my knee. I was in my toe. Thanks. That was in the jugular. But matchmaking is a weird topic, and I can see why they've left it out of certain things, to be honest. Because as you experience occasional moments of like, hey, we need random people to... Oh, God, they're never going to get it.
And if they... Okay. If the raid isn't supposed to be match-made, like the Nightfall's not supposed to be match-made, and it's not, then you have your mechanic-heavy content. Don't have mechanic-heavy content in match-made activities. Just by design. And they've been good about that up to this point. But the Reckoning Tier 2 and Tier 3, matchmaking is terrible.
Yeah, we got lucky once.
And
that was it.
That was it. That's the only time I've ever seen us finish Tier 3. Was with that group. Or the one I ran that one night.
Yeah.
So that's... And it's just a different approach. I know they lost the 2 Sandbox leads, and I don't know what the impact is to that kind of design process. But if they want to have mechanic-heavy content, save all their cool ideas for the raids. And then the people that go in them and beat them in the really hard mechanics, they can brag about it by wearing cool things that don't actually exist anymore.
Well, that's the other piece, is like, we don't... Like, some of the coolest raid sets ever were from the end of Destiny 1. A shout out, drink some water. Alright, fair enough, Havoc. Havoc's like, drink water. Hold that thought. And shout out to Havoc, guys. Thank you. We'll hype in chat. We have the coolest looking armor as they wrap up Destiny 1, as you can go back and play the old raids. And then all the new stuff is like, hey, you're gold and shiny, and these weapons don't have any unique perks. Like, they're so afraid of putting unique perks into things. You're freaking my screen out, man. Seriously, guys? Wow, so kind. But they don't even have like raid specific. They took so long to get raid specific perks on armor. I'm just gonna wait over here.
You might need a
I need a new emote. You guys are terrible. Anyway, but they haven't made anything unique and worthwhile. What if there was like, what if the Reckoning dropped Gambit Prime stuff that also gave you like, hey, in the Reckoning, you have extra stats or extra damage or whatever. What's up, Soul Gavin? Good evening. Just anything extra towards the activities you do. I know Crucible needs to be a little more level playing field, but in PvE, you have so many different things, and we get no benefits to any of it. It's like, I can't go do a Nightfall strike or work on a Vanguard set of armor that helps me in strikes. None, whatsoever.
It would be nice if the Gambit Prime armor mattered in Reckoning. Why doesn't it?
Right. That would be kind of awesome. Because you could go in there, work on the Reckoning, get the stuff. This helps you in there so you can grind it out more, but also gives you benefit in Gambit Prime. Like, if those were the two loops, that would help me a little bit. Not a lot, right, but a little bit. To be like, okay, at least in these two things, which is the new stuff, which is probably what you're going to play, if you get this tier 3 set of, like, then the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 would actually kind of make sense if you're like, hey, you get, you know, faster grenade and recharge armor of tier 1. And then tier 2, you get a little bit more. And that stuff helps you. And I don't know why they can't do perks for PvE activities more. They can do a full set bonus for Gambit, but they can't do like, oh, you know, here's tier 1, like +2, +3, +12, whatever, and this helps you in the Reckoning.
Even can I have my armor rant now?
Can you what?
You have an armor rant now?
Armor rant? Go nuts. I've probably had mine before.
Well, I'm going to compare it to Anthem, which even though they've completely messed up some other things, I can wear 6 masterwork or legendary components that all do cool, unique things. There's probably 11 or 12 per class, so you can mix and match to your liking, and they don't debilitate. They all stack. It's playstyle based, so you can wear all the yellows you want, equivalent, and really have a good time doing that. That's where I get messed up. Like the bows we've been pulling out, I can only ever use one of these at a time. I can't have Malfeasance or Cade's Will with an exotic bow with Thunderlord because they want to keep it balanced instead of having fun. I can't wear, the helmet with the chest that does the grenades, with the boots that let me fly and not die as so much, and your Whisper of the Worm thing. And there's never been exotic arms or capes or, the waist piece, class piece.
The class item, yeah. There's no exotics there.
And that's a lost opportunity to me because then if you could stack those, then it doesn't obfuscate purples. It lets you really be unique in the field based on your playstyle. Because, yeah, there might be a meta, but if you stack some particular type of things, like somebody really likes grenades or particular likes melee, you can't do that right now because you have to pick and choose your exotic. Whereas on Anthem, you can slam all your exotics down and have fun. And that's the thing. Why don't they let you have fun in PvE and let the mechanics in the raid still be mechanics? But that's hard, regardless of what metal gear you put on. There's still mechanics. It kind of is above and beyond and outside of what you're wearing.
Well, and that's why I have to... No, you're fine. Trust me, my rants have been much, much longer. So you sit there and you said you had fun with your builds in Black Armory. I'm like, how much variety do you really get out of builds outside of like, hey, I want to use a pulse rifle, a machine gun, or I want to use a hand cannon, or rocket launcher? Like, how much variety do you really get in builds?
I really never tried all my classes. So the fire ones, top, middle, and bottom.
Yeah.
I really never did the bottom tree, and I didn't know what the difference was between the bottom tree and the top tree. So things like that. And then I got unlocked lore pieces and the stuff in the triumphs that I didn't know I needed to do. But that's the kind of stuff I was doing. It didn't hurt that I was using the top or bottom tree because I was still being productive in Black Armory. That kind of stuff.
I mean, that's fair, but I mean, when you're talking about builds, it's very minimal compared to like a build in Anthem.
You're thinking armor. I was thinking just the void, electric, and...
Yeah, subclass changes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, those don't change, and that goes away. Shout out to Havoc with the tier 1 sub in chat. Shove the dove. I'm not entirely sure if you don't like birds, but welcome to all the fun we're having tonight. But I mean, you look at the... Okay, so you look at the subclasses right up there. They even had more variety in Destiny 1. Currently,
I miss that.
I do too. This is a huge thing that people were like, this one wasn't even here, so you had 1 or 2 trees. You don't get to pick. You can't even be like, hey, I want hammers explode and I want sunspots. There's no way to mix and match anything. It's all this like tunnel focus to one tree that has to be like perfectly bubble balanced, everything. So you don't get a chance to mix and match or have different perks. I can't pick like... I get double grenades with 1 class. That's it. 1 class. I'm like, if I could go into like my subclass and pick, hey, it's like I want firearms, and then if you go solo, you got to have that grenade. But then it's like, hey, what if I do want double grenades, or what if I want a throwing, something like they have. When I think of builds, I think of completely different. You have different class. I mean, I go Diablo. You have, if you're going fire and you're going a solar build and you're a mage and you have like fireballs and then magma orbs and all those crazy things. And then if you go like a lightning build, it's a completely different thing. Your skill tree is totally different, completely different options of things to use. A necromancer is either going to have a whole bunch of things he can summon, like dead skeletons you're going to send around, or pets that you're going to have follow you around. They're completely different trees. And so when you say builds in Black Armory, I was like, that's a personal choice to like try different things out, but you don't really get to be effective in a very different way. It's not drastically... Your grenade's not different, your melee's not different. Your abilities hardly change, except your, your super, and you have a throwing... Like, this one you have throwing hammers, you have sunspots, and you have the little baby melee hammer, and then the burning maul. So, I mean, you have varieties of solar, But your grenades never, you have those 3 grenades, and your melees really never change. So, builds to me are hugely lacking in this game, just overall. Did we lose Havoc? I think we lost Havoc. Oh, he's down there.
He's down there.
He's ready.
Better...
He's ready. He blends in.
Oh no, that hurt.
Welcome. Now, honestly, I sit here and I look at myself glowing fire. I'm holding my Hammer of Saul. I look freaking awesome. I do. And that's one of those things why I love this game, is I can throw a flaming hammer that explodes into other hammers and blow stuff up, like, amazingly. So I love certain things about this game. And that's why I think, like, the passion for a game that has potential sucks. Because we all, like, see that it could be so good. But, of course, there's things that are desperately lacking. For those of you guys out there on Twitch right now, if you guys want to throw up questions right now, this would be a good time to start priming a few of them up, as we've been rambling quite a bit. But we've got... My overall feeling of Destiny 2 right now is we're at a point where when they tell me to level up to 750 in Season of Opulence, it's going to be a slog. To me, it really is going to be... I still got to do the same Nightfalls, the same Flashpoints. I could do some Gambit. I can do some Gambit now. I haven't even hardly done that many Black Armory weapons. One, because they didn't have Blast Furnace yet, since Season of the Drifter came out. And two, it's like, am I going to go back and do that stuff? Yes, but I have done those forges before. Okay, I got to shoot the pulse rifle bullets, kill the heavy targets, then go into the forge. But that's like the last season's content. So I just get to the point of thinking about another season. There's going to be a 6-player matchmaking activity. There's going to be the raid that everyone wants to level up for. But I'm like, you're still mostly going to level up doing the old stuff. And it's starting to wear on even somebody like me.
And to that point, you're one of those content creators who does burn through.
I know.
Havoc.
Shout out to Havoc in chat. He's like, stop saying bad things about my addiction. I love this game.
It's positive, constructive criticisms.
Criticisms for the wordly challenged? No,
all games have potential. People that play them a lot see, and you wonder if it's a development choice, a time constraint, or a technology limitation that in the current implementation of the game they can't do some of the stuff we describe. But what never made sense to me between D1 and D2 was how much they got rid of that was so good. It felt like the first year of D2 was just putting D1 into D2.
Yeah, no, I mean, it basically was. You had most of D1, like, getting to an ending place where everybody loved it. The new raids were back. We had... vendors don't matter right now. You have, like, one pinnacle weapon, which is, like, its own grind in itself. But overall, there's no, like, vendor rolls each week of, like, hey, this could be kind of cool stuff. Oh, you got 1,000 voices? You're going to make us all look bad? That's not fair. And shout out to Havoc in chat, by the way. Definitely spreading the love around. Oh, that's amazing. He's like, I'm out of here. He killed himself. That was amazing.
It was the bow. The bow was greater than the 1,000 voices.
Bow was greater than 1,000 voices. But you had so many cool, like the armor sets in Destiny. Have you seen the ones I'm talking about, by the way? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
The ending Destiny 2 armor sets. Destiny 1.
Yeah, we worked on them together.
Yeah, they're amazing. Like this. Yeah, for example, this right here. I'll just throw it up on the page. Well, that's a horrible, horrible picture, but... Like, the armor sets were so cool, like, and those were going back in a raid. They haven't even done anything like that for, Leviathan. If they were like, hey, go back and do Leviathan, you get some cool sets, like... Okay, sure. But is it ever going to look like that? That stuff was amazing. And we have had squat for armor sets. Like, what's the Scourge of the Past? Scourge of the Past armor sets. Stupid autocomplete. They're so tame. They're so minimalistic. Everything in this game seems to have gone to, like, next to nothing. You're like, okay, they're there. I have red and black. I get the black armory colors. That's fine. But there's nothing that even glows, no chromatic effects. And you had that stuff in Destiny 1 on like PS... It was literally on PS3 and PS4.
Yep.
So like, how do you have that stuff in that game, and then you have this game that struggles to look cool to me most of the time?
So the gun I have on here, why didn't the rest of the armor from the raid look like this?
So Izanagi? Oh, yeah, you're talking about the Last Wish stuff. So the Last Wish armor is... Let's see. I'm trying to remember what that looks like.
But the back of it, where it's the theme, the space theme, if they
Yeah.
could wrap it around a gun, wrap it around the armor and make
Yeah.
it look like it came from the raid and be awesome. And then
Yes.
people would want it.
So like, this is your current... Stupid zoom. This was like the Last Wish armor. Looks awesome. So you have the guns that have like the mother of pearl and then like the space behind it. Those look cool. And then you have the armor that's like kind of white and blue and has some more pads on it. And you're like, okay, think we're kind of missing something here, guys. What's up, Silver Spear? Good evening. And they have, I mean, I'm not saying the artists don't do a good job. They have like ornate details on stuff, and it's like the artists like typically do a good job, but the things that set the stuff apart previously were the glows and the chroma and all of that stuff. Destiny 1 final raid armor sets random. I'm sorry, nothing really compares to that right there. This is just amazing when it ever loads.
I'm at like 8 seconds behind you.
That's fine. This is just... I could stare... This could be my wallpaper and I'd be ecstatic. It looks awesome. And we have never had anything... Now, I know that was like not how the armor looked at first, but even the Destiny 1 armor before all the glowy pointy stuff was on it still had a cooler aesthetic to it.
The problem with armor like that is there's no transmog.
Oh, I know. That's a whole different problem. And that's one thing Anthem absolutely nailed, is you can change your character's look all day long, and then your abilities, your armor, your components, and your character, quote, stats, if you want to call them that, are totally separate. And there are things, and people have asked for that stuff forever. Give us transmog, give us transmog, give us transmog. And I don't know why that hasn't been there. This shader system. Oh, year 3 trials. Hold on, I gotta look that up. She's got a good point. I'm gonna save this one though. Yeah, year 3 trials was awesome. Hold on. Trials armor set. That's pretty good picture. Like, those are completely its own activity. Without a question. It's my glow kitty. Yeah, it's like... and then
I like the Egyptian ones, yeah.
Yeah, the Egyptian ones down... Where they at? That's some of the newer ones. But it was the ornaments, and that was one thing that I would love to see them put in later. If you were like, hey, what's the reason to go back and do Leviathan? Well, if you go back and do Leviathan, you can get this glowy, like you have a piece of armor, well now you can get an ornament, and that ornament is what lets you step it up to the next level, and also looks awesome. Yeah, there's your glow kitty cloak. Lion's Vigil cloak. Plus the ornament was separate on the side. And they even added some little bubble on the side. And they have like ornaments for the armor for Leviathan. And it's normal and not normal. It's basically like gold and titanium.
But, like Havoc said, they haven't touched any of the original PvE or Crucible content at all. It's been abandoned. The sniper guy on Earth, Debron K, I liked him. He was good in the story. But he's still got the trash can mesh bag on your shoulder from the get-go.
Yeah, they haven't touched it. Like, the vendors have been... And this is where my head gets to spinning and wondering is... Has most of this stuff been neglected to just be like, okay, we dumped out Forsaken, it's been good. The annual pass is kind of a self-maintained little guy. Opulence is doing its thing. How much and how long have they been leaning into Destiny 3 is my hope that honestly that like these things that we would like to see in this current game are not there because they're hopefully doing everything they can for Destiny 3. And then my other question to add on to that for you and anybody else in chat, because I've had this debate with Cognito before. You say you have everybody is on this expectation of Destiny coming out in September with something large. And you have the first time that Destiny is out from Activision's thumb. They don't have a release schedule they have to hit. It's on their own. But what do you think it does if they release in, what if they wait for Destiny 3 to go on PlayStation 5 in September or October or November of 2020? If they wait for things to release, and then what do they do in the interim? Do they have to do something in the interim? If people fall off of Destiny 2 now, will they come back to Destiny 3? All of those questions, like where do you see the future of Destiny, as the question mark after August of this year is, like the elephant in the room. Where do you think they can go? And anybody else in chat, throw up an answer as well. I'll read them all.
If they deviate too far from their current mechanisms, let me take it back. I don't know what... It depends on how much staff they can keep. Now they're an entity on their own. They have to change a whole lot of back-end infrastructure like a business would. Their offices are predominant out of, Seattle?
Yeah, Bellevue, but yeah.
So top talent will be the first to leave. They're the quickest ones that can find gigs if they're seeing potential bad stuff. It's the other ones that stay, they're the ones that really don't have much choice. And then, so depending on who's remaining to work on D3, if they're, because it's normally a 3-year dev cycle, when was Dev 3 supposed to come out?
Well, Destiny 2 was supposed to come out a year when Rise of Iron did. So Destiny 2 was already delayed. We're on year 2 of Destiny 2. So the idea would be Destiny 3 would probably be 2020. And it also makes sense that if you're going to release a number 3 on Destiny or something large, the biggest piece you can put out is with a brand new console as well. Can you imagine Destiny launching with PS3 and Xbox 2? Or PS5 and Xbox 2? Whatever those are called.
Right.
I mean, that's a huge push on a brand new console.
The engine's pretty, but I don't know if they want to stay... They seem to have problems with the agility of the development cycle with the current engine they have.
So slow. That's a whole different issue.
Well,
we'll touch on that too.
But are they going to take the time to keep marching forward knowing they're going to get blisters, or are they going to stop what they were doing on Dev 3, take the source code they can take out of whatever engine they're using, and move it to something that they have more control over? That will determine a lot of things on a whole other stratum of complexity.
So Soul Gibbon says, I would like a September expansion to help fill the gap if they want to wait for 2020 for D3.
and they could do that by refreshing.
Okay, do you want a full
the original content?
Okay, here's the thing. Can you expect anything of reasonable size, like another Comet, which is like another Forsaken, which is a lot of development resources to put into something? That's not a small group of people that made Forsaken. That's most of the studio, I have to imagine, that made Forsaken. I mean, D2 started and they're like, okay, what do we think about D3? I'm sure there's a small group and it grows over time, but Forsaken had to be most of the damn studio making that thing. Do you have most of your resources going into another Comet while people in the background are trying to get ready for the next year? Or do you do an annual pass, again, of some nature, of maybe 4 seasons, just to help, keep some people around, use the live team smaller, and go full 80% of the, studio on D3 for 2020?
You could keep D3's production steady and use a live services team functionality if you change the rules that everybody plays by. I.e., they came out and said, hey guys, we're working on D3. We're our own studio. We're being honest here. We're going to shrink down the live team. They're going to have some more flexibility with the sandbox. You might see some things be less stable but quicker changes. And it'll be more fun, but you're not going to get a new raid. And people might get upset with that, but they either let the people that are still around keep making changes so that there can be fun content. Random things. Just let them have a ball with it. Like, Warframe. They're a small studio. They make content all the time. The number of suits and mods they have.
Yeah.
They're just pumping it out all the time. Let a team like that keep running with this, and then build a content on the side, and let the new one develop maybe on a new engine. Make sure they keep all the good stuff from D2, and make D3 where it may be more PvE to start, or turn PvP into a different style, or there's so many options they have, but they could have fun with what they've got. Didn't Live T do Rise of Iron while everyone else was working on D2?
Yeah, pretty sure they did.
Right. And I actually liked Rise of Iron as much as I don't like PvP. Well, that's the thing,
is like you had, for Forsaken, though, you had 2 different studios. You had High Moon Studios and Vicarious Visions involved in something the size of Comet. But, I mean, they did the PC port, but they made certain pieces of that content. So, I mean, I'm torn. What do you got, Prescott? If they wait till 2020, I think they will need something special, since they will have no idea what D3 will be. I think you do a smaller season length, have at least one being targeting the vanilla planets, Mars, Mercury, make it some sort of way of preparing the system for the upcoming war. And
bring the moon back. Bring the moon back.
I mean, yeah, like bring back a Destiny 1 planet. That'd be kind of cool. The moon was everybody's favorite too. That's always funny. Everybody loves the moon.
Just bring the moon back and say Rasputin found something there, and Anabray sets up a forward base so you can use more content, and do it on the moon, or the Vex are trying to terraform the moon. Can't be that. I mean, moon is the best. See?
See, yeah. No, it's like, and that's something that I would like to see. I was like, my worry is like this, like, and that's kind of, I like what I want is for them to come. I want Luke Smith, who you probably haven't watched the Vidocs. he's like one of the main directors, if not the director of this damn game, to go, we are working on Destiny 3. Right now, we are going to, as you said, like, just be honest and be like, hey, we're working on this. We are shooting for this time frame. This next year is going to be slower from us. We're going to try and mess with some things, try and get you guys some different content. We don't have a full schedule, but we'll, stay tuned. We'll be dropping different things here and there. And just, as you said, have some fun with the live team. But if they can actually come out and say, D3 is somewhere in the works, it's a thing, it does exist, but we just don't have a date when it's going to come, it would give some hope. But I think if you said, as they say, we're our own studio, we have to, like, figure out how to do this now, that would definitely be something that would, I think, need to be said. Transparency, yeah, as you said. Transparency would be really important.
Now, with transparency comes backlash. That's normally the give and take, because there will be vehement people that have sunk money into D2, and they feel, because they don't understand sunk cost philosophies, that they're entitled to whatever it was they had before. So if you change something, nerf or otherwise, and it's not gracious, i.e., let's say they turn scout rifles into half-powerful sniper rifles and turn it loose, and the meta flips over, and then the next month they just messing with the mechanics of what's good in the game changes so many different things, but it would upset so many more. I think it'd be entertaining, because you really wouldn't know, let's say, the Crucible this week. Instead of it being, whether it's the capture the flag or the other, you go in there and it's, sidearms are X4 damage.
I honestly wish they would do some goofy stuff like that, to be like, and that could be like your weekly playlist, to be like, hey, sidearms. I mean, that's one of those things where I wish they would even bring dumb stuff back, like Man with the Golden Gun, or one-shot kills like GoldenEye, like old stupid modes like that. They have this thing called Crucible Labs that they would like test modes out with and stuff, but their testing has been so, they're like outside the box, but literally squished up next to the box. They're like, oh, this is kind of our normal stuff. We're like over here. Rift. That was their like capture the ball in the middle and run it and dunk it to the other side. And you kind of got to coordinate with your team and wipe them out and run it aside. Like Rift was one we all would love to see back. And I miss it drastically, like to a huge level. There we go. Back at our desks.
And then I don't know how many people in your chat played Star Wars The Old Republic. It's a BioWare game. And it was an MMO, but the most fun PvP, and the closest thing I can relate it to would be Gambit-esque, was Hut Ball. It was fun. It was challenging, it was entertaining, and it was really team-oriented sport almost in that game. There were whole leagues just built around hutball. And I don't know how many of them have played it, but something like that, like your Rift mechanic, where you carried the ball and you passed. But the thing was, you passed it around, so you could carry the ball.
Or you had to, or you could.
You could pass. And there were different tiers. So there were 3 tiers of elevation. So instead of the flat maps like you have, like the trees here, you could run up or down through the trees from one side to the other, and there was strategic air shields. They used them vents, but here we could do like a Vex wall where you could see through it, but you couldn't pass through it, and it little corridors and stuff. What's the map that they have now on A, B, and C where the B is underneath the middle? A and C are in their own buildings.
That could not be more vague.
I know.
A and B are on 2 sides, and B is in the middle.
B is in the middle of a big building, and above it there's a tunnel, a shaft with the heavy ammo in the middle. And it's on this planet.
It's like 3 sniper lanes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Convalescence, I think, but it used to be Pantheon. Yeah, it's a Destiny 1 map.
So if you added tiers, like another level of functional travel, and you turned that into a rift, and you could pass the rift around instead of always having to run with it, then, again, make a mode that will help sustain several months of new meta, where it's somewhat mechanical, and it's 6v6 is fine, but in Hutball, you could use your abilities more, and they didn't do damage, but they moved you around, i.e., but you could only use them if you weren't holding the ball. What was the one that Havoc hit us with earlier is lightning charge.
Suppressed if you're holding it, basically.
You're suppressed if you're holding it, but like he did his lightning charge, so he could sprint forward to get a pass.
Yeah.
And then the warlock could teleport. It was all mechanic based, and it really was a fun because you had the different class dynamics to do that with.
I mean, sounds like something that if you could take, because they actually have the mechanic now where you can throw the orbs. So if you had Rift where you could actually pass to somebody else and be like, hey, I'm probably going to die, and maybe throw it back out into the world. It's like, throwing a blind basketball pass back into the court. Be like,
it's like rugby.
Yeah, just like see how that would go. I mean, Rift would be cool. I'd like to see something. I love how you guys have matching armor and I'm over here looking useless. But no, it's like PvP has seen so little, and that's honestly one thing. So here's a question, as I've heard some people talk about it. What if the game flat out just didn't have PvP?
I would be fine with that as long as there were Gambit is the closest thing to a competitive PvE. It's kind of like the Tetris where you throw blocks at each other.
Yeah.
I do not like the invader mechanic as of this morning.
Yeah, I can see why, for sure.
The overshield is boosted. The see-through walls is busted. The marking through walls now, I guess, is... There's no way to counteract that. That's where...
I mean, the invader mechanic of people have had opinions about for a while. I mean, the see-through walls, like, people feel like that could be a pulse. See you said, Fred. Have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. Good to have you. I mean, I don't want to see PvP go because something about this PvP, I know some people hate it, but Destiny gunplay and having the ability to do PvP still is fun. I may not love it and I may not live in the PvP world, but I still don't mind jumping in every so often being like, because I'm okay. I'm not amazing, but I'm okay, and apparently so are you.
If they keep PvP in, stop making PvE quests go in PvE.
I agree with that. Now, they almost did it right on Thorn. Almost. Because, no, I'm like, they were that close because they gave you, hey, go do Blindwell, go do PvP, or go do Lost Sectors or something. And you had 3 different ways to do each piece of the quest. And then if you're like, hey, if you want to go do PvP, you might get a bonus on this section, but if you want to go do like 20 Lost Sectors, technically you can go do that too. So it's like when they gave you options, that's one of the first times they've really done that. But then the last piece of Thorn was like, go in PvP and don't die. Or no, that was Last Word. But
yeah,
it's like
I got that caught up too.
Yeah, so those were pieces to where they gave. I like the fact that you do have options because everybody plays it different. What if it's like, you know, 3 Gambit matches, 3 Crucible matches, or 3 Nightfalls. Do one of them. Or do all of them. Maybe you want to mix it up. However you want to check those boxes, check the box 3 times. So,
Nope.
I mean, it's nice that they had variety, but, and I don't want to see PvP completely go. But my biggest thing is they have to have a way to set perks aside for PvE. And they used to do that. It was like against minions of the darkness, and they took that whole terminology out in D2. But I want them to say, let's 3-man Scourge. Well, our flaming desks can be our other 3 people. We'll just send them out into the world and take care of things for us. They're all little robots. That's what I want. I want PvE and PvP to be like a line drawn in the sand, to where if I get a raid perk, I'm like, cool, this is raid perks, yay! And then on the other side, if I get like PvP stuff, it's like, okay, these are PvP. Maybe they have benefits in other things, or there's like trials bonuses, or Gambit things have set bonuses, and there's like a variety of things. But the fact that if I go into a raid, they're afraid of making a gun that feels awesome in PvP or PvE, but breaks PvP. I mean,
Because of how they have their armor. If a hunter knew that if he went in there, he needs to be more hidden because he has less health than the Titan and the Warlock being less cannon, if you played off those dynamics in PvP, then it wouldn't be so bad. But what was the step on Thorn where you got to kill the classes for materials?
yeah. You're not wrong, Havoc.
I finished the Hunter one quicker than the Warlock one, barely. That took forever to do. The Titan wasn't so bad. So Hunters are very popular in PvP because they're fast, Blade Barrage or gun, or now the Blades of Void Doom.
Spectral Blades, yeah.
So, okay, they're the meta, but they shouldn't be that. And that's where the disconnect is. So they have just as much unbalance in PvP due to PvE stuff already.
Yeah,
and they don't address it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've always wished if it was... So you have a 4v4. Say you have 4 Hunters, but they're faster. And then you have 4 Titans that are slower but have more health. The Hunters have less health. So you can split in like 2 pairs, and you're say it's a control match, so you have 3 points. So you're always trying to divide and conquer. Well, say you're a set of 4 Hunters running around, and you're like, hey, we only have 200 health each. Okay, we gotta run together and go hit this point. Well, there's 2 Titans on it sitting there with 400 health each. Now, you got jumpy, crazy Hunters running around doing crazy stuff, and they might be hard to tag, but you have 2 tanks that are sitting there on a point, and then you have the 2 going the other way. But again, they can run and probably cover those points. If they do take out those 2 Hunters, they can bounce back and forth between those 2. But if you have the 4 tanks together, then the Hunters can split up and cover 2 real quick. So it'd be kind of a cool split. Again, I can't figure out what the hell a Warlock does because they're all about recovery. I don't know what to do with that stat. It's never made sense in my mind because I can go tank, I can go speed. I'm not sure where the glass cannon fits in, but...
More crowd control. But how would you turn that around? How would you implement PvP in Anthem?
Oh my god.
Well,
that's why it's not in there, for one.
No, but fundamentally, the class roles are there.
Yeah.
That all feel very different. And if you had a team of Interceptors versus a team of Colossus,
yeah,
it would be very much similar to what you're talking about.
Right.
And that's something, as much as everybody doesn't like PvP, that's having PvP in Anthem right now would be some semblance of
entertaining
saving grace. Yes, but in Mass Effect Andromeda or Mass Effect the other, you had PvP specific gear you wore. You had a PvE javelin or a PvE set.
So if you wanted to go into a PvP match, you're like, I'm going to go pick the... What's a word? I'm going to go pick the Knight, and this is where I go take into PvP, and it all runs the same. Could you
Correct.
do that? Okay. So you have a completely different class where you go in there, or things like... Or you just take somebody and you go... I mean, you could normalize some things, too. I mean, if they took every... I mean, it's hard enough to balance guns. But if you had, you know, if I had a Go figure that was a standard 450 pulse rifle, 4-shot burst, but I did not have Outlaw, Rampage, Kill Clip, blah, 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 blah. What's up here, Sean? If I had no perks, my perks literally when I go into PvP are not active. Like in this game, if you went into PvP and they wanted to normalize it, because they're always worried about things being unbalanced, if you just turned off the perks of any gun when you go into PvP, that would level the playing field on a lot of things, because you don't have the fast reloads, you don't have the rampage for extra damage, you don't have, the range masterwork that's going to let me cross-map you with a hand cannon. Exotics are a different animal, but for a decent amount of the guns, that would somewhat level it out a bit. Not a lot, but a bit. So you could at least try and have things on guns that are like, hey, completely bonkers for PvE, but if I go into PvP, that perk is inactive. Would that ruin the fun of it? Or would that, neuter PvP too much? Or would that actually be something that might work?
Well, it would, if it was non-competitive and it would probably take a while to get the balance kinks worked out, because obviously players find things developers don't. Eventually it would work out fine, but it's only if they could be agile. You could have fun with different if you had a different set of classes under Solar that were specific to PvP, and yes, your weapons normalized.
No.
Like Jotun, how do you normalize that though? It's kind of
I was like, exotics throw the world in a loop, and that's what I was like, maybe no exotics in PvP. I don't know.
Well, why.
But is that then boring as hell though?
It was just a whole different. It was kind of like you walked into, an astronaut changes gear to go out and spacewalk.
Yeah.
You literally walk into a locker room and you take off your outer world gear and you put on your suit of whatever to go into PvP. Nothing carried between the two. You could earn the gear outside or inside and have different sets for in PvP, and it was tracked separately.
And
really
that's
don't want me in there. I'll get you.
But that's one thing also for Bungie that they've always said is they want and that's kind of the lore behind the Crucible, is like, this is where you go and take your stuff and your ghost reses you, and this is the whole Shack's place of practice, where like whatever you get out in the world works in here too. And that'd be okay if I pick up a gun and it feels the same, but it's not like crazy perked. Or exotics, I still don't know. Those break some things, but for them to have more fun. I mean, as you saw in Anthem, there's like some of those components or weapons that are kind of stupid. Like I hover and I get 50% damage on my interceptor. I hover more than I ever did. And that was just that one gun that I got that was a masterwork, which, changed, literally one gun changed the way I maneuver my character because of what it told me to do. There's literally nothing like that in this game.
The Colossus, I got the boots that when you jump and slam, there's a detonation from your impact point.
Yeah, and there's no weapon. Weapons are, because they're transferable between all characters too. So I mean, that's where your exotic class item thing would actually be kind of cool. And they did technically have exotic class items before. They were minimalistic, but technically they had them.
But you can't stack them.
But then Ishan's saying it's like there will be one gun and one set of armor that is OP, and nobody will use other guns with different perks and use different guns. Somebody's going to find the meta, and then everybody's going to be like, all right, well, go get a Go figure, a Kindled Orchid, and a Hammerhead, and then you have just the best stuff because everybody's the same. And then it's all about skill. Is that what people want, though? Do you want it about skill?
See, those look cool. I will give it to them.
Oh no,
always
it was like the effects, whoever did the PC port and the graphics just in the game alone, still awesome. So it's like they don't have an easy job to try and balance out PvP, PvE. You've got Gambit now as its own thing. You've got these offshoots. You've got some other 6-player match-made activity coming in with Season of Opulence. You've got another raid. But you don't give any benefits of like doing set activities. If I do raid stuff, at least give me a raid set of armor that makes the raid easier. That's like an easy kind of basic thing that they could do. Hey, if you're in here, you do more damage in this raid. Because you've worked on it, you get better. And then the raid actually gets easier. The more you've done it, the more gear you have.
Right, then you can technically carry.
Right, and then, yeah, exactly. And then you're able to help people because you've got a bonus of 25% damage and 20% damage reduction. And you're like, yeah, the raid's... But it's like, yeah, if I've beaten it enough to get a full set of armor, I've experienced your content. I'm not like missing out on the raid. I've done it. Now, after a while, some people may get carried, but that's the only way they're going to get through. But I mean, at some point in World of Warcraft, if you're going to go fight, you know, the first boss, like there's 2 big giant dogs before you get to Ragnaros. Those dogs are going to be far beyond your level, but then you start getting stuff that makes you more powerful. And the next boss gets doable. And the next boss gets doable. And then finally, when you get to Ragnaros, you're like, holy crap, I just got smashed. I still honestly wish they had a longer, deeper raid where some of it wasn't like you could do the first boss. It's not just like you walk in and it's 6, and some of it is kind of staggered that way, but it's never staggered enough.
That was the old D1 raids, right? They were like that? Where they had more than one boss?
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Leviathan was literally just the boss, and those were like encounters. And then in this one, you have like the map section, and then Scourge, you just have the mech warrior in the end. Each one of these basically just they all kind of have one boss. They don't have multiple. Yeah, the D2 raids or D1 raids. I mean, Taken King had 5 fights. You had the War Priest, you had Golgoroth, you had the Witches, 4 fights, I'm sorry. The Sisters, and then Oryx, which is like 4 full fights, and then the puzzle in the middle. So it's like, those were cool. I mean, Vault of Glass, you had Oracles, which was its own section, and then you had, I can't remember the dude in the middle. And then you had the jumping puzzle, and then you had kind of the first and second phase of the Atheon fight. So they had like a lot of phases to these things, but they definitely had more bosses, for sure.
Now, if they could stop having bosses with that redonkulous ground slam of
my God,
lazy coding ever.
I am tired of the slam by everything. I'm totally with you on that one.
Everything slams.
Templar,
There's no point to going. It had to have been designed to counter Ikalos.
Well, I mean, it's been around much longer than that, though.
It keeps getting bigger. I was in Gambit Prime, and you know how the Primeval now, he moves around to the 3 different areas where the stars are.
Yep.
You can jump over it if you time it, and you'll fly all the way to the other side when he does the ground slam. I'm using it to travel around because I've been playing it enough now.
Well, that's impressive, but it's also there's next to no variety. There was one boss in D1 that didn't do that either, though. If you ever got close to any of them, they don't want you close, but then they give us swords, which swords in D1 suck. But there's a rumor there might be a good one coming back, but we'll see.
I saw that, but it's the one where you had the 3 different versions.
Yeah, but the one that's coming back is Dark Drinker, which was everybody's favorite. So the Void spinning one, which was the good one.
But you can't get close enough to use it.
I know. So then you take an exotic like Dark Drinker, but what am I going to use it on? A boss that I'm going to get smashed on? No.
No, the red bars.
With an exotic sword. Right. You better give me about 150 ammo.
That's the thing. You can only use it on the ones that don't slam. The Templars have the shield to slam you in the face, or the swords that, and then everything else, and the ogre. Oh, and the tracing knockback ogre shot.
Oh man, yeah, the Taken ogres are brutal. That's why I hate Vorgath. That fight kills me every 3 weeks.
I know what they did in code, and it's just lazy.
Well,
it's a functionally collisionable object. Because they're so it doesn't go through terrain. So the reason it's affecting you is so it doesn't go through terrain. It's the same. It's aggravating. They're treating you as your terrain.
Well, either way, I mean it's a push. Like in the Vorgath fight in Shattered Throne, the dungeon, he typically won't kill you. He will just basically move you to where you can get killed. Which is a different mechanic. I mean, they've done something. I mean, normally an ogre just fires a laser at you and melts you. He will actually push you, which is... They found a way to make him slightly different. But honestly, for D3, I want, like, lots of new stuff. I know we have, like, the Fallen and the ogres and... Yay, bubble. Woo! I'll be over here. Looking dainty. But yeah, honestly, anybody else in chat, do you guys have questions, thoughts, opinions about anything out there? Do you guys have a topic you want us to cover as we just sit here and kind of ramble on about a whole bunch of stuff? It's mostly me just staring into the camera and then another voice and then Havoc in here just blowing stuff up. Currently, the state of Destiny 2 is kind of funky. We don't know what comes next. We're doing a lot of the same content. We know we're about to go up 50 more levels. People are not happy about Infusion cores, but Bungie is standing their ground for whatever dumb reason I can't figure out. And again, that's one of those, like, that's a decision they're holding their ground, and most of the community's like, take them out of Infusion. Master working would at least matter. What do you think about them adding it? What
classes, subclass? Are we talking like fire, lightning, void, or?
Yeah, give me like a poison or a something. A new
or
element
is that a
would be.
subclass?
That'd be a
New
subclass.
element, okay.
That would be a subclass or an element. I would love that. Are you kidding? That's the variety. That's the type of variety we're looking for. Or is that D3 where they completely go like solar, void, and arc for the light, and then the dark is going to be like poison. I don't even know because they already do void. I'm trying to think what would be 3 other elements.
You wouldn't have to do 3 other elements if you did light arc, light fire, and light void, and dark arc, dark fire, and dark void. You have 6. Oh, a whole new class: Titan, Warlock, whatever.
Titan, Warlock, Hunter, and I mean, I was.
Well, they're all the same as they are anyway. That's
the problem. Yeah, there's not enough variety in them because they have different subclass abilities. But if you take a Void Bomb and you put it on a Titan, it's still the same guy. There's not a lot of variety into it. It's a big wall when you're sitting here like that, by the way. On my screen, that's a pretty big wall. What is it? Poke. But yeah, it's like if they were going to make a new class in there, they need the other classes to have some distinction between them, in my opinion. Because right now, there's not enough that sets them apart. It's like you have your Warlock that has your... I mean, they have certain pieces. You have your Tethers, you have your Wells of Radiance, you have your Bubbles. They have their kind of defensive pieces, but I mean, it's just like everybody shoots and explodes stuff in different ways. They're not... The characters don't... And they have slightly different hovery jumps. But they don't have specializations. Like, even in Division 2, you go specialization. You go Sniper, you go Launcher, which is like grenade launcher or things like that, or you go kind of explosive crossbow, and then you have a whole skill tree which opens up like different mods or different abilities and different actually opens up different ability variations. Those types of things would be really nice to see, but right now nothing really sets itself apart. I mean, a lot of the grenades are copied between classes too.
Hold on, there's 3 good questions here. I'm trying to figure out how we should look at them.
Which ones are we looking at first? Mixing elements?
I don't know how to add a new class for Havoc, but subclasses like Ice and Earth would be fun, but again, do they limit it where they're as balanced or as boring as they are amongst each other?
Well, they need bubbles to come back to skill trees. I'd like to see a... Well, I mean, the main color we're missing in my eyes is green. That's the one that would kind of set itself apart as something different. I don't know what element that would be. Whether it's like an energy, whether it's a plasma, whether it's a poison, whether it's a... I don't know. But
because like Earth and Nature and Poison could all be wrapped one.
Yeah, you could do something like that. So some type of green could be Earth and Nature, Poison. That I could see. And that's the one I think the color that would be missing. Because you got blue, you got purple, you got orange, which is kind of like red. So, I mean, you got those, and green is going to be kind of the other side of the color spectrum that's not hit. I could see something like yellow, too, but that's almost too close to orange again.
No,
as they went right in the middle.
60 frames per second for Destiny 3.
On console?
What resolution? Well, no. What resolution?
I mean, right now, console doesn't run 1080 60.
Well, I know that, but I was asking Grits what resolution he wanted.
My assumption's going to be at least console's got to be 1080 60 at a minimum. But you've also got like 4K. Well, and that's the thing, is like you say 4K 30 for Xbox One X, or super sampling on PS4 Pro, which they don't even do now. Like 1080 60 on console isn't even there for Destiny, but other games will do it. I mean, 60 frames per second for Destiny 3 on console I think has to be a must. On PC, it's there, obviously, because it's your hardware based. 4K 60. Woof. Okay.
That's a lot of processing power.
I was like, to run... So 1080p, I think 60 frames per second, it absolutely will. Because if D3 is on the next consoles, that's easy. That's doable almost now with what they have. It's not quite, but it's close. 4K 60, My computer doesn't even do that. And Threadripper and a 1080 Ti, I could technically have a faster gaming processor. So if I went like a 9900K and a 2080 Ti, those two alone are $1,700 plus what it takes to build the rig. It's about a $3,000 rig to run 4K 60 if you just go straight gaming. They are not at that level, even though they think they wish they were. But then you have stuff like Forza that supposedly does run at 4K 60 or close on the Xbox One X.
To Prescott's question,
do you think with all games of similar looter shooter gameplay that have come out, that D2 may suffer because people are actively trying to take their player base and Bungie doesn't want to really listen to the main problems that would keep them in the game? So I guess that's a two-phase question.
It's a two-phase. I like competition, but I also like to be able to play different things if something's frustrating me. So if Gambit's really frustrating me, like you do in Destiny, you have other things in there, and I get that, but it's also nice to just shut down Destiny and go play Anthem. Fly around for a bit and shut down Anthem and go play something else. So
take that from somebody else's perspective, though, that's like, hey, I'm a person, I get one game every 3 to 6 months. So
one game ever?
One game for 3 to 6 months. Like, how many new games do your kids get? For example. You might be a horrible example because you probably will give them more. But
no, I'm not that bad, actually. I've only bought them... So I bought them the annual pass once they got to 600.
Okay.
I told them I would buy them the annual pass when they got 600 to show me they could do it. And then I bought them Anthem, and that's all actually.
Okay.
This year.
So, I mean, you've got Division 2. Warframe is free, but that's a whole different animal. You've got Anthem. You've got potentially Borderlands 3 coming at some point next year, facing off with Destiny 3.
That's not a face-off, by the way.
What,
they're very different.
Well,
they're fun. Borderlands is really fun, but they're very different.
Okay. But, I mean, it is... I mean, yeah, you have Space Magic, you have Guardians and stuff like that. But, I mean, there's still looting and shooting going on in most of these things to some aspect, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, looting and shooting of some variation, whether it's space or cover shooter or kind of crazy, cartoonish, cel-shaded, whatever it is. A general loop of looting and shooting or shooting and looting, chicken and egg, I'm not entirely sure. Somebody was saying that the other day, too, and it's like, well, is it looter-shooter or shooter-looter? And I was like, I don't actually know. Because I honestly think it's a shooter-looter. But you start with some loot, but then you shoot, and then you get more loot. But you have to shoot to get loot. And is what you have loot, or is what you have gear, and then you get new loot? Did I break you yet?
I think that was Scream that did that.
Either way, I was like, that random tangent aside. I kind of like what you said. It is nice to have variety, but from the one person that wants to commit their time to a game, and something like Anthem coming out, breaking, sadly, many, many ways, it's still fun, but it is busted. You've got Division that comes out with a lot of positive reviews, and people may shift away and play that for a while, and that's where my question kind of makes full circle back to, say Division 2 and Anthem, they're kind of duking it out right now. Destiny is at this point where they did the annual pass and all these things. If Destiny doesn't do anything in September, but they're like, all right, studio full force, we're going to some small live maintenance stuff, basic things, everybody's going D3, pretty minimal activity, and they just kind of announce, hey, we're working on D3, we're working on these things, but we're not going to do a whole lot this September, and everybody's kind of finding out about between the other two. Does it hurt them does it really hurt them when Destiny 2 has already probably pissed off so many people, like Sean, that I know, who was like, hey, I played D2, I played D1 the crap out of it, I played D2, Curse of Osiris came out and sucked. He did not even get Warmind. He played Curse of Osiris, but he's moved on to other things. Like, is it better to wait and put more effort into that big number that's going to pull more people back to be like, hey, like, this is truly Bungie on its own doing their own thing?
Who's the voice actor for Cade 6?
Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, Bungie can't afford him.
Not at this point.
That was EA.
You mean Activision?
Thank you. But that takes that kind of powerhouse to afford that kind of voice actor.
Yeah.
That's why I had to get rid of Dinklebot. Same problem.
Once he got popular.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, with this other stuff going on, I mean, that goes back to his question, is like, do you think waiting a little bit or giving some space to all the stuff that's going on, people that got burned by Destiny 2, as opposed to maintaining... Black Armory kind of came out with bad onboarding, and then Gambit's all focused, but then Reckoning's doing this, and then even like everything seems to have this up and down give and take to it, where it can't just be come out and just blow the door. Like Forsaken came out was like, I don't know, 8.5, whatever. Like, it's a great thing. Everything of the annual pass or these live service pieces have like ups and downs and ebbs and flows to the positive and negative, and it's like, is the give and take actually really doing Bungie that much good? Or is it like Cognito says, nice to have...
Thought and put my kids to bed. I'll be right back.
All right.
If they release Destiny 3 like Apex Legends came out, what do you think about that?
What, just one day, bam?
Exactly. Because you know, they got rid of all the... If the big studios start following that model because it saves them a ton of money, that may start happening.
Alright, so I do believe my brother's going to go put his kids to bed. So I will talk to you guys for a second. This has apparently been a long one. We're at 2 hours already. This Q&A has been kind of fun. So I actually still think D3 will feature a way to revive and return Cade 6 for the Vanguard. I also think that Bungie will add all updated D1 location strikes and raids to D3 since they break away from Activision. Thoughts? So Cade 6 coming back, I honestly think he is dead. They've kind of emphasized that point, and as he is the Hunter Vanguard, as Aldrin was the one who killed him, he is now a Guardian, he's been resurrected, he doesn't have his memory, they have a lot going on. You could also have Anna Bray, there's different people that could fill the Hunter Vanguard spot, and if they take away from killing him, I think they take away the gravity that kill meant to a lot of us. They take away the weight that Forsaken story had. So I think if you just do a Etch-a-Sketch on Cade and he just somehow becomes Cade 7, I think you take away the weight that it meant when he actually died. When his ghost was shot and when he was actually killed meant something to a lot of us. And when we're hunting down Prince and we wanted him to die, now the fact that he's coming back, it wouldn't have the weight that I think they want that whole series of events to have if they bring him back. So that's my thoughts on the Cade part. I mean, Nolan did Cade, cool, but I still think Cade is kind of done. That's my opinion. As for the other part of your question, if they added all D1 locations, strikes, and raids to Destiny 3 since the breakaway from Activision, that could be, and it kind of depends on the assets and the engine and what they've got. So they made completely new everything for D2. And it's also a point of how many times do you want to go back and, you know, play the old stuff. Now, if they take, like, where's Russia? The Cosmodrome. If they take the moon, if they take those pieces and they bring them back... What's up, Dallas Cowboys 55? How's it going? If they take those pieces and they bring them back with new activities and, like, not all boring stuff... What's up, Dallas Cowboys? Thanks for the follow and welcome. Good evening. Punchy cannot resist. Gandalf came back. Han Solo came back. Well, yeah. Han Solo, I think, is dead now, though. So. Kurtz, I like the idea. I loved Cade. Fun dude. One of my favorite lines is "Get your orb off my map." Still one of my favorite lines. I just don't think he's going to stick around. What's up, Rick? How you doing? Are we just chatting away? So the other piece is what they put in Destiny 3. If they took the full solar system, gave us like 8 planets, or if that was like the Destiny, you know, I don't even know what you'd call it, Savathun War or Hive War expansion, whatever you want to call the crazy next piece that adds everything. You have 8 different planets going on in the solar system, but it's like some of us, I think, eventually want to get out of our solar system. If we're always coming back to Earth and the tower, at some point, is there like a point where we want our base to actually be on a spaceship or out in different places? I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see the moon come back. Mars was kind of brown and red, mostly red. I did like Venus. Actually, that I always thought was cool. And the Cosmodrome, you could do more stuff. If they bring it back with different stuff to do, What about the big black Doritos? See, that's what I want to know. The space Doritos. So shout out to Tefty Teft for his space Doritos. To me, I want like the space Doritos. I want to get farther out of our solar system. I want to like meet them out in space and like have different planets, whether it's Neptune or Uranus or Pluto, for example. Not even all of those things. I would love to see them find a way to come back and like have us combat them out in the world of the universe as opposed to always on our turf. Like they keep coming to us, like we don't get on the offensive. We're always trying to hold our ground. So for me, I'd like to see maybe an expansion. Maybe the moon has a base with Rasputin. That'd be kind of cool. Then we get like a Europa. Then we get like a moon of Neptune. And we start getting farther and farther. And again, how long is this 10-year plan? I mean, it's obviously pretty impressive plan because you had Bungie spend about $160 million to get out from Activision. So they wanted their IP for sure. And they think they can make it worthwhile. The question is what they're going to do with it. But welcome, Rick. Anybody joining right now? Thank you guys. Just kind of doing a random Q&A. Cognito is out for the podcast. He's out at PAX. I've just been hanging out with my brother, chatting and discussing topics. What's up, Super Judge? Good evening. A little hype for everybody out there. Thank you guys. I don't know. For me, Destiny 2 is a fun game, but honestly, it is sometimes nice to have these breaks that I've had with like Sekiro. Completely like single, brutal game. Totally different playstyle. Anthem actually had its way to set up my brother Stonewolf. He's just a guy I've played with a lot. You may have seen on stream. But really, it's just to a point where it's like it is nice to have some casual nature to Destiny right now. What's up, Grits? Thanks for the follow. All those questions and now you follow? Well, appreciate it. I guess I had to earn that one. Sucks in 29, the game like Destiny 2 is not crossplay. I don't even know if it's crossplay. Cross-save would be one of my easier things. Like if somebody's like, hey, do you want to play on Xbox? And you're like, you know what, I'm going to bring my Xbox down here. I'll stream it with you guys. And I can play on Xbox with my same stuff. And I think some of that exclusivity will hopefully go away with the PS4 exclusives since Activision's not part of the deal. I think the exclusives are going to die with whatever stops with the annual pass. So hopefully that's a thing. And you're back, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
So what if we visited Andromeda Galaxy for Destiny 3? We learn everything we can about the Vex. Raid will be Vex. Will be a Vex god who can control Guardians. So Prescott, you've got D2, Warframe, and Anthem as service time games that I love playing. But having a standalone game to play has been really helpful in staying... Yeah, it's like sometimes you just can't play them all, and sometimes you're like, I'm burnt out, I just want to go do something normal. Like, I want to go play a single player, linear path, work on myself for a bit. Because these that are just like, it's different. Like, a lot of people get burnt out on these constant, I don't want to call them maintenance games, but you are trying to maintain... Yeah, it's like, it's an investment, but it's...
I'm really looking forward to Cyberpunk.
That's going to be a whole different animal.
Well,
whenever it comes out.
Oh, yeah, but Witcher 3 and... I even enjoyed, actually, Assassin's Creed Origins. There was a lot of... Odyssey, thank you. The most recent one. Odyssey. That was good. I liked it. There was plenty to do, and I tied it all up, and at a beginning, a middle, different parts of Phase 3, and I was able to close the loop and be done with it. And I didn't play Destiny probably most of that time, unless it was Tuesday.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that, for me, Destiny 1 came out having issues, having many, deep issues with, rewriting the game and changing up the story, and the story being convoluted, and all these things going on. D2 comes out, sounded like they had to rewrite that thing in, 16 months, and had so many changes, and, threw stuff against the wall, and only half of D1 stuck, and now they've been trying to piece it all back together as a weird-ass Lego set. One of these, if Destiny 3, they've had two strikes against a lot of people. You had Osiris, you had Morrowind, you had the first season pass that burned a lot of people. Forsaken was like a redeemer, and that's why they gave a lot of stuff away. But they've burned so many people, they need to crush D3. They need that to come out as like a 9.5 and nail it. And that's why, for me, as there are other games right now, I would be okay taking a break. My YouTube channel may suffer, but for me as a human, I would...
Isn't Halo coming back out?
Halo Infinite, that potentially is going to be with Xbox Scarlet, Anaconda, whatever the hell that thing's called. That's probably going to be a launch title for their new console. Have to bet. It would make too much sense at this point. I don't think they would launch it this year for an old console when something new is going to probably be the better platform for it. Yeah, Halo Infinite would probably be next year. So then you have Halo Infinite and Destiny 3 sitting right next to each other. Or do you wait till, do you do it on like a weird ass time? Do you release Destiny 3 in like April when nothing is there?
Even if it's a game as a service, it doesn't matter what month it ends up becoming part of the rotation.
Right.
If you play D2, Anthem, and Destiny as your live service games, and it's a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday content rollout,
You don't have time to
that's
play
an
any of them.
insane investment.
Yeah.
And at some point, it's just like people got MMO burnout.
Yeah.
Are they going to get games as a service burnout and just throw away a genre for a period of time until something else brings them back? Because who's gone back and played an MMO?
I mean, I played WoW. I tried like WildStar for a little bit as one to jump back into. But I mean, I really haven't. That's a deeper investment than this.
Right, but if people got burnt out on MMO levels of investment due to the way generational changes occur, how much more time do you think on a 10-year game span like Destiny was supposed to be, can they continue to have a game as a service be, hey, you need to log in the week of Valentine's Day or you're not going to get this bow. You need to log in the week of Halloween or you're not going to get this gun. Or Anthem, you need to play the next 41 days to get these cosmetics. They're penalizing players that want to play by not valuing respect. It's not that they're not valuing the time, they're not respecting their time. Because they think their game time to whatever shareholder responsibility is more important than the end user's time. Because it's not about fun anymore.
Well, I mean, this is where we're going to get a lot of questions answered. Up to August, this has been the plan of Bungie/Activision. After August, we get to see what Bungie actually wants to do with their game. I mean, this is always another question, too. Do you think they could ever go free-to-play? Like Warframe or Apex or anything like that? Do you think they could actually sustain that?
If they went free-to-play, all games end up trying and doing it, the game mechanic loop needs to change, and a lot of people will leave. Some people will stay, others will leave. Some people won't play a free-to-play game because there's a perception that you can pay to win.
And that's a hard balance if you actually need to make money.
Or they turn D2 free-to-play to pay for D3. But then what do they charge? Do they keep D3 free-to-play?
Okay, what if D3 was like World of Warcraft and it was like a service model? $10 a month.
Those models are dead, man.
Well,
what game does subscription now?
I don't know of many. I feel like Final Fantasy like 14 or one of those is probably one of the last.
Is the last one I'm aware of, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's cross-platform simultaneously. You can play with your friends on PlayStation or PC. That's a whole separate infrastructure. People paying that subscription do that because they know the back-end servers they're paying for allow them to play across platforms.
Well, I mean, there's a couple things a lot of people want. Like, dedicated servers for PvP has been asked for forever because the PvP lag, the DDoSing, stuff like that has got to stop. So, like, at this point, this is a question I want to ask to all of chat and also to you for as kind of a decent place to wrap this up because we've been going for about 2 hours and at some point things that do have to end. What's your bullet list? I want bullet list items for Destiny 3 that is going to make you guys say, hey, I am playing Division 2. Anthem's actually in a pretty good spot because Cataclysm's pretty cool. Cross our fingers, but maybe. Borderlands 3 is coming, and Halo's Infinite's coming. What's going to be those things that say, but Destiny 3 has these things, and they're going to make me play it because of that? So anybody in chat, feel free to say anything. We'll talk about the topics. Do you have things in D3 that D3 should have for you that's going to make you pick it over a vast abundance of other things? Cyberpunk and anything else for that example. I don't know if they could pull you from Cyberpunk, honestly, but seriously.
Well, I was waiting for chat to chime in.
Oh, that's fine. Well, I mean, you can go first. Do you have anything? I mean, so 1 and D3 for me, I mean, dedicated service for PvP. Like, that feels like something they need to figure out. I don't know who they get with, but somehow that needs to happen because the PvP stuff I mean, I've gone through it before where, like, I'll play a game in PvP. I'm like, oh, I did well. And I do another game in PvP. And if I'm not the host or I'm not on the host team, I am getting worked over because even though I'm playing, I typically will play about the same, but my feeling of a game is completely drastically different. Havoc's going to play Destiny because he's a Destiny and I'm an addict. Hey, that is totally fine.
Nothing wrong with that.
I appreciate, acknowledging your addiction is step one. We'll work on step two. Cyberpunk will drop in 2020. I don't know.
Hey, that's a long time from now.
It's going to be a long time, dude. I see, like, Cyberpunk in, like, I don't know. I bet that's, like, 2021. I don't see it being that soon.
But I don't mind them taking their time. Witcher 3 is still selling. That's still a great game. And they make revenue otherwise. What's my list for D3?
Yeah, I mean, I just it's like, what is going to make, what are things that are going to be like, okay, it's like...
I can tell you what will make me not buy it.
Okay.
The leveling mechanic, if the light leveling mechanic is the same as it is now, I'm not doing this again.
Okay.
Other games do it better now already.
Yeah.
They can't repeat this again. And having armor not matter is a separate thing. The random rolls don't bother me.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
If the armor mattered.
Yeah.
If they don't learn from Anthem and Division and Borderlands on D3 and they keep going down their tunnel vision direction they think they have, they're just going to be missing out on a lot of good opportunities, like pinging and everything else. But like you said, dedicated servers, that's yours. Mine is, this light level grind is wrong. And it's meaningless.
Well, and that's that's mostly it too. So many things are generally normalized. You don't have that moment of feeling like a god. I can't walk around and normal patrol, and be like, hey, I'm gonna go, like, look at you and you're gonna die. Basically, I can walk around with a sidearm in this and feel powerful. But on the flip side, they don't have, like, a high difficulty patrol that does actually require a higher level, and that's when the lower one would be okay. So, I mean, I'd like to see even, like, the world tiers that people are doing, like Anthem's doing it, Division's doing it, Division did it first. Anthem learned that lesson to give you at least multiple levels of using the same content, but the full drastic world is harder. So they could do that. I mean, that would be a big one for sure. But I mean, I'm with you. I mean, Division, when you go around, you pick up gear, it's going to be, sets and leveling up, and it feels good. And some of Destiny's leveling up feels okay, but then when you get to the max, or the soft cap sucks. Like, the soft cap is where this game dies for some people, and they're just done.
Because I like, and to be fair, so just to learn mechanics, or let's say my youngest son, he can hop on my PC, and he doesn't play PC very often, on Anthem, and I can go into easy mode. I'm not going to get good loot, I know that, but he has a ball just flying around, and he's powerful because I'm wearing masterwear gear in easy mode. It's not something you do very often, but my gosh, somewhat therapeutic. There's no way of doing that in Destiny, which is your level armor doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, everything is always normalized, which takes away... This is a game where you're meant to be, like, 700 power, but I can go back into a lost sector, and if I don't pay attention, or, like, I have to walk away to a bathroom, I'm gonna die fast. Still. From guys the same guys I was fighting 500 power levels ago. That doesn't make any sense. So no,
right.
I agree with that.
It's that whole... They need to address leveling and the gear. They're good. They have good shooter mechanics. They have good map design. They have good skyboxes. They have good audio. If they would just let the lore people that type do the lore people that do more involved with the story, so it's cohesion, instead of hiding behind panels. Now the API and everything, fine. They have so much to fix with this game. I don't know what they do and don't carry forward for themselves.
I mean, it feels like they need it's the whole... I mean, the engine from D1, you hear about the old rumor was like, they have to open a map. It takes like 8 hours to open a map, and then if they want to move a bush, then they save it, and they hope they come back the next day and it's been opened. Like, I know that sounds ridiculous, and it probably is extreme, but I don't know how an engine gets that far back. And again, their adaptiveness. You have Anthem being broken, but they're fixing 200 things. It's sad they had to fix 200 things, but it's also impressive they can fix that many things that quickly. Destiny is this, like, broken by analytics situation where they take so much data and think about it so long, or they can't adapt things quick enough, and I don't know which it is, or both.
Well, counterpoint, Anthem changed 14 pages of stuff. There were a few bugs that made it past QA or code conflicted, and they put out a hotfix later. But there's the quicker you change things, the more prone to introduce an unknown. And I know Destiny is bug averse because, and it's probably the reason you said, it takes them so long. But back down to Rick's point about some people really, really like PvP. That's all they do. I've gone into PvP, and there are people there I think are cheating because they're so darn good, and I don't understand how. But when you introduce the field of view change on PC, you fundamentally changed PvP for everybody. And that's something that hasn't really been talked about. If you're going to have field of view on PC and PvE, it affects PvP. And it's something very simple, and it's a huge impact. And it's not
like an ultra wide.
Well, again, it's the same thing. If you change your field of view scope to as narrow as possible, and you're a hunter, and you have the radar on, you can be considerably more accurate with a sniper rifle than somebody with a wild field of view that isn't using the radar on an ultra-wide monitor. You're penalized almost.
It's like, I want kill cams. That would be nice, because there are so many times when
That's a good idea.
I died behind a wall a lot. But I think many of us done that. Imbag saying take hip fire off snipers. For the love of God, yes. Like, that's one of those that Anthem, I will say, they looked at their perks and people were like, some of these suck, and they're just like, hey, we fixed them. How long did that take them? 2 weeks, maybe?
On the gear itself, it was 2 weeks. On the physical mechanics, it was 1 week.
Still, that's friggin' fast. Like, there's, like, hip fire grip on a sniper. No, take it off. That's not a perk. If you're going to no-scope, you're going to no-scope with or without that. That is a roll that wastes my time. Like, firmly planted, or all that shit where you have... Sorry. I'm sorry. Language, my bad. But, yeah, firmly planted, or... What's the other? Field prep, I think. Either way, where you have to be crouched in a game where you have to move all the time, that's the worst idea ever. Who thought that was... I don't know who thought that was fun. And I don't know if there's... An exotic
leg weapon for the Titan where you slide and are a shield? Really?
I mean, there's a lot of slide shotgunners, but, like, that's some skilled timing, and I've only seen, like, 1 or 2 montages. That's just... And they do waste some exotics like that. There's so many... There was a point where for D2, they're like, hey, we're going to do a full pass on the exotics. Well, they did pass on some. They're slowly getting some patches out on others. Catalysts are still not on every weapon, so like Jotun or Thunderlord or others, like, I can't get orbs dropping all the time because I'm using better exotics, but they don't have catalysts. Even if the catalyst right now didn't do that much, just made orbs, give me that.
I'd be fine with that.
Anthem was scrambling to fix a game that's sinking faster than Leonardo card because kept frozen corpse in Titanic. Oh my god. This is one of those times where I feel like I need chat on screen, but oh well. So let's see. Rick was saying Destiny 3 needs a larger loot pool. That for sure. Like, that's a huge point for people already. Like, if you have random rolls on all the stuff right now, what about random rolls on year 1? None of that stuff is in here. You got some options. Bring them back. Just more variety. You've had 3 seasons. You could even bring back pieces in each season. Just be like, hey, the loot pool is a little bigger. Cool. Some variety. Something different. Oh, we're in a
now, to
again.
Be fair to Anthem, if they fixed a piece of gear, let's say they took off firmly planted, you'd have to get a new roll of it.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
It's not retro effective.
No, and it's future stuff, and that's fine. I'm not gonna, like, save a sniper that's got field prep, or, well, probably not that either. But a sniper with hipfire grip, it's gonna be gone anyway. So if I do get a new one to drop afterwards, that's cool. So
and Anthem came out 8 months too early. That's a whole separate problem.
Yeah, I mean, Anthem was like pulling a cheesecake out of the oven before it even had a chance to cool and it cracked. So
that was apparent. but the ability for them to modify their own code, good or bad, still modify it and build it and deliver it in the time frames they're doing it, it says a lot.
I mean, they can make changes fast. There was a point where the world chests were broken, and they literally turned them off server side in like a couple hours.
Yep.
And that's stuff rarely done in Bungie's world, unless it's like something they feel like they have to nerf or turn off or is broken. And they've only done that to basically stop people from having too much fun. But that's the thing.
And that's the only time they do it, is when people are having too much fun.
Yeah. Some more customization like Division. Yeah, I mean, different modify. I mean, that's just going back to the skill. If they have the tree of abilities, to actually have more bubbles, more choices, more options, things like that, that give you more variety of playstyles. Like D1 had it, and they got rid of it. Better storytelling. If they can take a Forsaken type story and put it in D3 and continue what's going on with Uldren, the Queen, the Emissary, the Drifter, all of
Black
that
Armory.
stuff. I mean, you want her
Because
to
the
keep
whole
going.
Golden Age is completely untouched content, and she's a walking Black Armory encyclopedia.
Yeah, well, hopefully she comes with us into whatever's happening. But I mean, all of that story building, they have a chance to make something really cool. So I have a hope that should be decent. For story, it has to be like every mission has a little bit of story, which leads to strikes. Strikes leads. That's one thing I've talked about actually with one of my friends, Doldrus, which I mean that's Sean. But this is one of the issues with where like you go through the campaign. Maybe one. I mean, this is when I think of World of Warcraft. You go through like, oh, as a horde, you go through this area, and then your first little mini dungeon, like you're playing a strike for the first time, is going to be your chance to be like, hey, you'll farm this a little bit, and the end boss has a decent piece of gear. So you might play that a few times, level up, you might get some gear from him, cool. Then you're going to go off and do some other missions, go out this way to another planet, and then go out and be like, okay, now we're level 30, and then we're going to see this new strike. Okay, then we're going to go through these missions and go to level 50, this new strike. I mean, yeah, you'll see the strikes, and then later on you might have like a, a max level version to go back and play, and that's part of your strike grind you can do then, but not incorporate. The strikes always seem so detached from the story, and the raids mostly have, except Last Wish probably did it better than anything. Having the strikes actually make sense in the story for a reason, be like, hey, we're going to go break this guy out of prison, and there was like this chained up ogre in Destiny 1. Okay, so now we got to go take care of this like abomination who's going to get let loose, otherwise we have to do this, and then it's a thing. If the strikes were into the story path, like the critical path as they called it in Anthem, if the strikes were part of that, where you'd see those as you go through, they would be kind of cooler, where you'd be like, oh yeah, this was this part of the story. They would have some, like, semblance
Meaning.
of a reason. Yeah, and right now, it's like, if I go look through the strikes, I've got Exodus Crash. Well, okay, yeah, that's dealing with the thing that crashed, but what's the point? The only thing we ever get is random little voice lines, but it's still done later. I don't think any of the strikes actually opened up until you finish the damn story. Inverted Spire. So you know that the Red Legion is trying to drill into the surface. Well, why? Make that part of the story. Tie the strikes into the story.
Or have story missions in front of the strikes that are side stories, like every other game I've played. To unlock a strike, you would have to do the side mission.
Okay, there you go. I mean, like, okay, so there's a drill going on. Well, okay, you've got to do the side mission to go spy on this camp to figure out what these plans are. What is this drill? Okay, now we go fight the drill. Like that.
Right. Yeah. That way you have your critical path, which is separate from your strikes, and then you could go back. And it's just more content on the lateral that giving some flexibility, even though there really isn't any, to the player as they're moving through the critical path is perceived considerably more positively than forcing it.
No, and that's they don't even have they have adventures, which are not really side missions. Mm-hmm. They spent decent amount of time on them. That's why they've tried to give us reasons to go back and play the adventures, but they weren't really shown the same way or giving the same. They didn't really have much benefit, I guess. The side missions in Destiny have always felt odd because they don't really exist in the adventures or an attempt, but still not really there. Well, there's an explodey guy down there on the ground. So Rick is also saying for PvP we need dedicated servers, absolutely. Better comp structure and rewards. So if you're gonna have competitive playlists, they are kind of dabbling in it with like your glory score, where you're like, if I'm level 20, I'm not supposed to match up with against somebody at like level 4500. But unfortunately, like the player base on PC is so bad, if you get above like 2100, where most of the pinnacle weapon stage ones kind of are at, except for one of them, if you go above that score level, you're playing against literally just the sweaty of sweaties, and the player base population on PC is tiny anyway, but it's pretty rough. But there's no benefit. There's not like diamond tier or, I mean, I remember like StarCraft or Overwatch, like tiers that you'd work your way up through on a ladder, and that's never been in there. I don't know. New game modes in PvP like gun game or protected VIP. I mean, Rift. Just any new modes would be great. PvP and PvE changes need to be separated. Absolutely. Kill cams from Havoc. That'd be hilarious. I'd love to see that. Firmly planted in field prep on hand cannon is just flat out BS. I'm with you, Yashan. Seriously. Firmly planted in field... Yeah, those are... A story where we get transported back to the Golden Age or go back to the time of the Iron Lords. Okay, so that'd be kind of cool. What if they did like a... You have the Infinite Forest. You could go back and see like, hey, these are these different missions. Osiris comes back. And this is like the Osiris Golden Age. And he goes back and explains everything that happened. You can go fight on the wall for a mission. You can go see some of the old raids. Yeah, simulations. You have an Infinite Forest. You can do whatever you want in there. You could even bring back, hey, you want to do Crota's End? Well, guess what? Now we can go do it. You can go do Vault of Glass. Like, I think Cognito and I talked about it at that one point. Bring back the old raids with the Infinite Forest because it's literally whatever you want it to be. I don't know. Could be interesting. The Vex have time travel. Maybe we could somehow see Vex time travel.
At some point, you get to the point like you have in Destiny 2 now, where there's so much content. It's almost too much content, and you burn through it because you're always trying to do the newest thing.
Okay, so how can we fix the current state of an expansion comes out? Like, okay, I mean, so World of Warcraft did it, but I mean, theirs were massive expansions with like new areas and stuff. But how do you reshape the game world with an expansion so when you're replaying stuff, it doesn't always feel the same? They kind of did that with Taken King to the best of their ability of like taking enemies and kind of stuff out in the world and things like that. It was probably their best attempt, and they really haven't done anything like it since.
They did with the little people with the stilt light.
The what?
The virus.
Oh, Siva. Yeah.
Siva, the virus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was kind of a thing too. So,
but
I mean, is it like a revamp of? Yeah.
And like they did that, it worked well. It changed the mobs that were there. Now there's things that's going on. Just like if we're here on Nessus, Vex have been out here for a while, but they've jammed other people here already. The Fallen and others. So they've already mixed mobs. Yeah. But what they try to do with the Dreaming City of Fogginess, where she moves around.
Yeah.
Go back to the other planets. Yeah, Petra. And have Devrim move bases. Have the dude that with the Vex arm move around. Right. So if you're trying to revamp old content, simply just changing where they used to matter, the things on the map, what are they called?
Vendor, director, what word?
Public events.
Oh.
They're always in the same spot.
Yeah.
It's fine if they're on the map, but change them. It's sad.
No, but that's
they're irrelevant.
I mean, yeah. But I mean, that's true. Like, so take a public event. I mean, do you make new public events, or it's like, I mean, even smaller variations on what you got would be good, as opposed to nothing.
Right. The cistern area is huge, right? There's that huge lake of...
you got a Cabal event over here, you got a Fallen event over here. I'm just saying, that's what's there.
No, you have a big, pretty map there with a lot of space to work with.
Yep.
Don't always have the Cabal event on Artifact's Edge be the one everybody always goes to, closest to the warp point. I mean, by far, that's the easiest one to get to. And
Yeah.
it's always the same event, and you can time your shots. I don't have to actually, I can be doing many other things, including cooking breakfast, and do that event.
Well, you pretty much need to shoot something to attack the boss, and you're good. So.
I know where the orbs are landing. I know where the snipers spawn. I know exactly how many seconds it takes for that stupid ship to fall.
Yeah, even just mixing stuff around. Like, Cabal lands in excess black, and then there's a fallen thing here. Like, find some way to make that public event work in that space. What's up, Simon? How you doing?
Yeah. We've talked about that infinite forest being underutilized so many times.
Yeah.
Like Slayer said.
Yeah, Slayer. So what's your opinion on turning the infinite forest into a raid where the map changes every time? Yeah, if it's literally like an infinite forest or a horde mode or... Yeah, it's just different every time you go. It's literally infinite. They already have an ability to make it random when you do strikes.
Right, they missed opportunity there.
Yeah,
Osiris was a whole...
Osiris was... Yeah, that could have been their content that kept you going for a while, but no. But I mean, that's a way to do it. Like, take some of the public events and mix them up. Now, I mean, it'd be kind of hard to have Hive on this planet because they're not really here for whatever reasons. But I mean, that's kind of where do you wonder is there a way to move people around? What if Cabal were all of a sudden on Titan? They're not on Titan right now, but what if you had Cabal marching around on Titan?
So, Glade of Echoes, there's a war going on between Vex and the Fallen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, at some point, let one of the sides win. Advance the story.
Yeah.
Pick a side. And then that area's functionally changed. So you fly through there on your speeder to go through the dungeon there. You're like, wait a minute, this is completely different now. That's the kind of stuff that they could be doing between these phases, and they're not. It happens all over these planets. Let it ebb and flow, like trench warfare.
How much does it take to, like... I mean, this map, this world that they built, like, if I come over here and I look out into just this space that they built, like, how much change... So this one is mostly what I would call, probably mostly Vex. I'm going to come up here, actually, if I can get over here. Come on, let me land. Nope. Just trying to get up top, wouldn't let me do it. But it was like, I mean, this giant tree and stuff, like, how drastic of a change... I know what I would like to see, but how much do you think is actually possible?
If you didn't change much with the land, so your base level design...
Yeah.
But you put other structures on top of it, so the tree's still here, right? But you affix things to it. It's not going to change as an entity, but these blocks here, the circle, have the circle be taller. Add stuff on top of it, so you could see the original rubble and have, say, the Vex won this area, and put something in here that's Vex. And it's a new entry into, area. The map makers can make content, and then the artists can make art.
Oh, of course,
and there's nothing wrong with that. Who?
Oh, one of you guys did.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently sucked.
Let the different teams work, and if it's just every 60 days, hey guys, here's the new drop for Gambit and this, and oh, by the way, stop by Mars and check out what's happened around Anna Bray. They don't have to say what. They don't even have to spoil anything. Let it for us to discover. And that's a lot of the... You always liked when you had to discover a mystery. They aren't doing a lot of that anymore. And by changing the world gradually, it doesn't have to be large areas, but just enough, kind of like a cataclysm, in theory.
No.
You keep changing...
something.
So we all are. It changes the elements of what you've seen, and then over time, let's say my kids play it later... They won't see the same stuff that I will, and we can, back when the World of Warcraft started, the map was completely different, and it changed over time.
Yep.
But the people that played it originally can talk about the good old days, and the newer ones like, there's no room for crotchety old men here because everything's always static, and that's, to me, lost content. Like this cave down here. There's a glowy orb back here. If this place changed and they built it up and they finished it out because the Vex are always doing stuff, and this tunnel back here went somewhere instead, great. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But why? They aren't allowing for that type of change because... But then they throw away time on Valentine's Day pairings and other stuff like that. That's where I don't get some of the direction choices they made with the Sandbox. They'll sink money into a social event instead of organically changing the universe that they're in control of. I'm rambling.
No, I mean, honestly, that's like the little stuff that would be kind of cool. I mean, they haven't gone back to faction rallies, so we have Dead Orbit. We have those type of things that people are always wondering. It's like, hey, there's faction rallies out in the world, and if you pick Dead Orbit, all the things you do just matter towards it. And there was like an inkling of an idea, and it just absolutely failed. Like, those are a thing they haven't even touched in a long time. Samano saying, I don't get the way they're fighting each other in the game. It always makes you laugh to see them fight. Well, apparently they just don't like each other. I mean, they're different races. They just happen to be in the same spot. But as you said, that'd be kind of cool to be like, hey, somebody took over this week, or...
Or the Vex are doing a push, or the Cabal bought reinforcements from wherever.
And then maybe there's like a special boss around there that you could fight. And there's a world boss. Oh my god, I wish there was a world boss.
Mm-hmm. But that's not easy. It's less complicated time investments that would make everybody check in, and if they had it come back, and this is the only drawback, if they do the Dreaming City thing again, where you're locked out of content for 3 weeks, I will delete it. That was terrible. Because you were permanently penalized for that kind of stuff.
So
that's
like, I know there's like a lore piece to that, but there should, like, if you've beaten the content, maybe you missed it 3 weeks, and like maybe you get to it on the next, I don't know, like not forever, but forever in this 3 week cycle of like the Dreaming City, I'd love for them to just figure it out and kind of be done with it. Hey, now we have a standard perch. Because yeah, I mean, I missed Shattered Throne last time because I was out of town and working. By the time I got back, it was Saturday, worked Monday, and I missed Shattered Throne, and that's literally like, last time I did it was going to be, because it comes next week, was like 6 weeks ago. That's a long time for one of my favorite pieces of content that I do actually enjoy doing. And what's up, C. Franco? Thank you for the follow. And that just bugs the crap out of me, because I love doing that, like the solo run, like doing the guides and stuff that I've done, or even taking 1 or 2 people through it. I haven't been able to do that in a long time, and it bugs me. It's really annoying.
But this is all stuff they can't do it with what they have today. Whatever it is they're using to develop right now isn't agile enough to make that kind of change. That's the issue. It's very static because of what they've built it upon.
So, to wrap everything, let's see what Rick said before I do that. Really looking forward to the Stranger storyline in D1. Yep, no idea what happened there. But Bungie screwed that one up. Could have been an amazing story. It led to a different storyline, maybe time travel. Yeah, if they somehow bring that full circle, I'll be surprised. I feel like they just kind of gave up on that.
I think it's Ada's sister.
Ada or wait, do you think it's Ada's sister or was it Anna Bray's sister?
Ada Bray, sorry.
Yeah, okay. But it just feels like falling to the wayside. And then they took like Crota's End, and then it took King's Fall, and that was actually kind of a cohesive like build, which was kind of cool. Because like, you killed my son, now I'm gonna come in here and blow up your entire solar system, which was like, holy crap. And that was kind of cool. But yeah, it was like, just if they drop the whole storyline of right now that they've been building with the Queen and Mara and Aldrin and the Emissary and Drifter now kind of being in the mix of whatever the hell's going on, if they drop all of that and don't follow through with it, people are gonna be like, what the hell? So I feel like they have to follow through with what they've built as of recently. But so
the Aldrin thing is upsetting. They lost momentum there.
Bringing him back, or
not doing anything after that.
Well, yeah, I was like, what do you... The little cutscene or little even voice lines, we've had nothing for so long. And I don't think Opulence is going to tie in, because that goes back to the Leviathan and Callus. And that's where I wonder what the hell is going to be in September. So, I don't know. I mean, we know Season of Opulence is going to come in June. And we're going to know about it before June, so it's going to be end of May. So we're going to know everything that's going to be out this year before E3 happens. So E3 is...
Why don't they just not talk about Opulence and drop it? Why do they... There's no value add right now to the current player base, because they're invested.
Well, they've been waiting till like the week before and saying, hey, this is what we got. So.
Well, Sandbox changes mechanics, but leave the rest of it to Discovery, because that's some of how you would extend the content drought is Don't even. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a raid, but don't say how to get there, what starts it, or anything else under the sun.
Oh, I mean, well, they kept calling it the Season of the Redacted. Either they just, were waiting for titles and things. This is supposed to be the one of a lot of mystery and questions, so I honestly hope they do exactly what you just said. Because they said at one point they were going to try and do that. We'll see if they do, but that was at least a small theory.
Let it be, because there's been other games where they never figure something out, and 6 months down the line, like, hey guys, why don't you go look over here? Oh, what's all this? That kind of stuff.
Well, I was like, we'll honestly just have to see, because...
Is that cupcakes and Doritos, or is that French fries and Doritos?
Well, Doritos for sure. I can't tell what the other small thing is, so... Yeah, I'm talking about chat, by the way, guys, if you're watching this later. But for me... So, one of the things you said kind of sticks out as my continued reason to say, how much more D2 do people want or care about versus putting time in? You just say the engine is not that adaptable to do the things that could be easier fixes for some type of content to get them through the next year. So if they do like the live service, little patches here and little bits of content that some people are lackluster about, and then they're like, hey, D3, and everybody's like, well, kind of D2, wah. Oh, popcorn, okay. Or do you just like, that's why I was like, is it worth the effort to put into D2 anymore? Or just, enjoy your Season of Opulence. They'll maintain the game for a year. You can, work on getting into it if you want to. And then if not, we're working on D3 and we're just, hard and we're just deep into it or something like that.
Because that would almost be a free-to-play at that point. You would, people that are playing are enjoying it. Other people can go play other games. And they know they can come back and play D3 later. And this isn't going anywhere if you've technically bought the annual pass.
Yeah.
Kind of like Division and Anthem have already done, where, hey, if you bought the game, come back and play it when you want to.
Yep. And I think to me, that would be weird, but also, because, it's been 5 years of my life that I've been somewhat around this game.
It's just a vacation. You're not getting divorced. It's just a vacation.
I know. But
you and Havoc will get...
Yeah, Havoc's addiction. We'll have to work with that. But to me, that's one of those, like, me and Cognito go back and forth, and he's just like, I don't think they can be... His is that being out of mind share for that long would be detrimental to the brand, the IP.
When did last Borderlands game come out? Look it up right now.
Oh, it's like 7 or 8 years, I'm sure.
No, look.
It's a really high zoomed in thing. I literally got 10 out of 10 on Steam. September 18th, 2012. So 7 years.
And look at the hype for a game that is 7 years old.
Well, you take
just a trailer.
You take Grand Theft Auto, you take those types of things, and that's why I was like, for me, let D2 be quiet for a little while. And then when D3 comes back, the hype around a brand new, like, this is, hey, the Queen is back, bring in the Space Doritos, and you've got Aldrin as the new, like, the world isn't just giant amount of chaos, and people are like, all right, I'll play that. And if they do it well and they do it right, that's why for me, I'd be okay taking the break. Channel's just going to be different for about a year, but that's one of those pieces there's a lot of people who don't even get to 700. Like, you just told me your kids are, like, finally getting to 600. And you're like, okay, annual pass. They were noticeably behind the curve. There's people who haven't even played Destiny. And if I was like, hey, go play, here's Destiny 2 Forsaken. It's Destiny 2 through Forsaken. It's free. If you want the annual pass, it's, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 bucks, maybe, whatever. Even just 10 bucks, maybe. It's just something small, little supplement for them. And have the microtransactions be more apparent. Maybe switch up Eververse for the year a little bit. It's still cosmetics, but, find some ways. And just have some, like, art people, like, make cool armor sets if you want to. And just have your way to have a little fun. And then D3 come out in, all its glory. I feel like being in the mindset in a mediocre state isn't benefiting them any more than it would be to take a break and then come back. At least that's my opinion. Does anyone in chat agree, or am I crazy?
I don't think they do much after Opulence with D2.
That's kind of what I'm wondering. I was like, their Trials is on Infinite hiatus for seasons, which is through this, whatever. And that may be a tease that they may do an annual pass of smaller things until D3 comes. And that may be something they try and figure out.
Like, yeah, M-Bag said.
Yeah. A quiet Destiny 2 for a massive D3 with new consoles is better than half-ass D2 for a year. And then okay D3, whatever we have now. Like, yeah, I was like, let the discussion go away. Let somebody like Paul Tassi, who's written about so many Destiny articles, really have other things to cover. When Destiny 3 comes out, he's going to, like, just be all over it in a ridiculous fashion. That's because I want the game to come out as we all want it to. We want it to have the fixes. We want it to be like D2 Forsaken level stuff, but when it comes out for the numbered launch, to actually be correct for once.
The issue is the very vocal minority, the streamers, aren't going to like that.
Okay. So, people don't seem to have a problem playing other stuff for a year.
No, there will be those, and you can't do anything about them, but they're somewhat influential.
No, I mean, you're not wrong. Those are the people who went out to the community summit and got to play Season of Opulence. And maybe they thought and talked about other things. Who knows? Because maybe someday I'll get invited out there, but... That's a tough spot for me, because I'm on the side that I would rather wait for a better quality game. Because we saw what happened with D1 and D2 with it being rushed in some way, shape, fashion, or form of having to be remade. Anthem got rushed, didn't come out well. Division 2, they learned, they developed, they added on to their game, and people like it.
Right. Agreed.
So, I think that is where we will probably wrap this one up, everybody. Thank you, Havoc, for holding down the campfire desks with us. We appreciate it. All of you guys in the stream, I'm not going anywhere, but I'm going to wrap up this kind of recording because it is 2 hours and 46 minutes. I think this is longer than most of the podcasts I do with Cognito. So, thank you to my guests, Stonewolf, stepping in and enjoying a beverage with me and having quite a long chat. And all of you guys in chat as well. This has been awesome. And this is kind of what I was hoping for. Kind of a podcast without a podcast. So, for those of you guys out there in Twitch, don't go anywhere. Those of you guys listening to this later on YouTube, feel free to find me on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Ebontis. I'm on Twitter. It's Ebontis there. But if you're watching this on YouTube, if you enjoyed this, random talking, drop a like, leave a comment, whatever you want to say. But hit that sub button. We've got, obviously, a lot more content to come and more games to play as well. So thank you all very much. It's been awesome. I will see you in the next video. Other than that, have a good one.